Welcome to Ashes in the Carnegie Library by R. Collier. This book covers 1924 Midwest mystery set in a Carnegie-funded rural library. Chapter 1, The Flames of Mystery. In the heart of a quaint Midwest town, the Carnegie Library stood as a beacon of knowledge and community spirit. It was 1924, a time when Model T Fords rumbled down cobblestone streets, and rotary phones were the latest marvel. Flapper dresses added a splash of daring color to the otherwise conservative town. Thomas Granger, a meticulous insurance adjuster with a penchant for puzzles, was known for his calm demeanor and methodical approach. Little did he know, his skills would soon be called upon in an unexpected way. One fateful night, the tranquility of the town was shattered. An oil lamp, a staple of the era, exploded, engulfing the library in flames. As townsfolk gathered, their faces illuminated by the flickering inferno, a horrifying discovery was made. The beloved librarian, Miss Eleanor Whitmore, lay dead amidst the ashes. Her presence had been a constant comfort to many, making her loss all the more profound. Initial clues were as sparse as they were intriguing. A charred ledger hinted at secrets yet to be uncovered. A melted pocket watch, its hands frozen in time, added to the enigma. And a cryptic note, barely legible, whispered of deeper mysteries. Thomas found himself drawn into the web of intrigue, his natural curiosity piqued by the challenge. As the smoke cleared, the stage was set for a tale of deception and hidden truths. The townspeople, once united by the library's warmth, now found themselves bound by a shared desire to uncover what really happened that night. With Thomas at the helm, the investigation promised to unravel secrets long buried in the ashes. The small Midwest town of 1924 was a place where life unfolded at a deliberate pace, each day a reflection of the last. The town's square, with its cobblestone streets and bustling energy, was the epicenter of this community. Model T Fords trundled along, their engines humming a steady rhythm, while the occasional clatter of a horse-drawn carriage added a nostalgic note to the symphony of sounds. Open windows let out the shrill rings of rotary phones, mingling with the chatter of townsfolk engaged in animated conversation. Fashion in this era was a vibrant contrast to the muted tones of everyday life. Flapper dresses swished with each step, their sequins catching the sunlight, while cloche hats perched atop heads like elegant crowns. These bursts of color brought the town to life, painting a vivid picture of a community poised between tradition and the modern world. At the heart of this town stood the Carnegie Library, a grand stone building that was more than just a repository of books. It was a symbol of knowledge and progress, a gift from Andrew Carnegie that had become the community's soul. Its tall windows invited in the light, casting long shadows across polished wooden shelves that held the collective wisdom of generations. Inside, the smell of old books mingled with the scent of polished wood, creating an atmosphere that was both comforting and mysterious. Thomas Granger, our protagonist, was a man who fit seamlessly into this tapestry. A meticulous insurance adjuster with a keen eye for detail, Thomas possessed a quiet intensity that set him apart. As he walked through the town, he observed its daily rhythms with a calm demeanor, stopping to greet familiar faces and jotting down observations in his ever-present notebook. His methodical nature and passion for puzzles made him an unlikely detective, but one driven by an insatiable curiosity. Miss Eleanor Whitmore, the librarian, was a beloved figure in the community. Her interactions with the patrons revealed her as a woman of intellect and kindness, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes that only a few noticed. The library was her domain, and she ruled it with a gentle hand, ensuring that it remained a haven for those seeking knowledge and solace. One fateful night, the tranquility of the town was shattered when an oil lamp exploded, setting the library ablaze. The scene was chaotic, with townsfolk rushing to the site, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. The sound of crackling wood and the acrid smell of smoke filled the air, creating a sense of urgency and dread. Thomas arrived at the scene, his analytical mind already piecing together the events as he watched the flames consume the beloved building. As the fire was finally extinguished, the discovery of Miss Eleanor Whitmore's body amidst the ashes sent a ripple of shock through the community. The initial clues, a charred ledger, a melted pocket watch, and a cryptic note, were introduced with a sense of intrigue, each item hinting at secrets yet to be uncovered. Thomas's reaction was one of determination. His curiosity piqued by the mystery surrounding Eleanor's death. This moment set the emotional tone for the story, blending nostalgia with suspense. The stakes were established, and Thomas's personal investment in the case was clear. The reader, too, was drawn into the investigation, invited to stand alongside Thomas, peering into the ashes for answers. The library, once a symbol of hope and knowledge, now stood as a charred reminder of the fragility of life and the secrets it held. Thomas knew that unraveling the mystery of Eleanor's death would require more than just a keen eye. It would demand an understanding of the town's intricate social fabric and the hidden motivations of its residents. As Thomas began his investigation, he was struck by the library's significance to the town. It was more than just a building. It was a sanctuary, a place where dreams were nurtured and knowledge was shared. Its destruction left a void that could not easily be filled, and the loss of Miss Eleanor only deepened the community's grief. In the days following the fire, Thomas immersed himself in the library's history, seeking to understand its role in the town's identity. He discovered that the library had been a point of contention among the townsfolk, with some viewing it as a symbol of progress and others as a relic of the past. This tension, he realized, could hold the key to understanding the events leading up to the fire. As he delved deeper into the mystery, Thomas encountered a cast of characters, each with their own secrets and motives. Mayor Harold Jenkins, who had been embroiled in a public feud with Eleanor over the library's future, emerged as a key suspect. His political ambitions and shaky alibi added a layer of complexity to the investigation. Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian, revealed that Eleanor had been planning to modernize the library, a move that threatened the status quo and ruffled more than a few feathers. Her insights into Eleanor's plans provided Thomas with valuable context, but also raised questions about her own involvement. Dr. William Carter, a reclusive historian with a penchant for the occult, was another figure of interest. His fascination with the library's rare collections and his secretive nature made him a potential suspect, though his motives remained unclear. As Thomas pieced together the clues, he uncovered a burned book with a hidden message and a lipstick-stained cigarette, each item adding to the growing tapestry of intrigue. A telegram with a mysterious code hinted at a broader conspiracy, while a train ticket found in the ashes suggested that someone had been planning to leave town in a hurry. The investigation took a supernatural turn when rumors of Eleanor's ghost haunting the library began to circulate. Thomas, ever the skeptic, approached these tales with caution, but he couldn't ignore the impact they had on the townsfolk. A seance was held, revealing more about Eleanor's past and her enemies, and adding a new dimension to the mystery. As the days passed, Thomas found himself drawn deeper into the web of alliances and betrayals that define the town's political landscape. The library's destruction had exposed fault lines that ran through the community, and Thomas had to navigate these treacherous waters with care. Each clue, each revelation, brought Thomas closer to the truth. A time-stamped letter found in Eleanor's desk provided a crucial piece of the puzzle, shedding light on her final days and the decisions that had led to her untimely death. In the end, it was Thomas's analytical mind and unwavering determination that led to a dramatic confrontation, revealing the true motive and method behind Eleanor's death. The resolution of the case forced the town to confront its secrets and begin the process of healing and renewal. As the library began its restoration, Thomas reflected on the power of knowledge and community. The case had changed him, deepening his understanding of human nature and the complexities of life. The library, once a symbol of hope, now stood as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of truth. In this tale of intrigue and deception, the reader is left with a sense of satisfaction, having journeyed alongside Thomas through the shadows of the past. The stage is set for further adventures, as the town and its inhabitants continue to navigate the challenges of a changing world. Thomas Granger wasn't your typical insurance adjuster. Sure, he had the crisp suits and the briefcase that seemed to sprout papers like a magician's hat, but there was something about him that set him apart. Maybe it was the way he approached each case like a puzzle, each piece a clue waiting to be discovered. Or perhaps It was his uncanny ability to read people, to see beyond the words and into the intentions behind them. Whatever it was, it made him the perfect person to unravel the mystery that had engulfed the sleepy Midwest town of Millfield in 1924. Millfield was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, where secrets were as rare as hen's teeth. Yet the fire that consumed the Carnegie Library one fateful night brought with it a wave of suspicion and intrigue that the town had never seen. The library was more than just a building. It was a symbol of the town's pride, a gift from the steel magnate Andrew Carnegie himself, and now it lay in ruins. But the real tragedy was the discovery of Miss Eleanor Whitmore, the librarian, found dead amidst the ashes. Thomas arrived in Millfield on a chilly autumn morning, the kind of day where the wind seemed to whisper secrets only the trees could hear. His mission was straightforward: assess the damage for the insurance company. But as he stood before the charred remains of the library, it became clear that this was no ordinary case. The explosion of an oil lamp had been blamed for the fire, but Thomas's instincts told him there was more to the story. Inside the ruins, Thomas found the first pieces of the puzzle. A charred ledger, its pages singed but still legible in parts, hinted at discrepancies in the library's accounts. A melted pocket watch, found near Eleanor's body, stopped at precisely 9:17 p.m., the time of the explosion. And then there was the note, cryptic and half-burned, with words that seemed to taunt him with their mystery. The truth lies within the ashes. As Thomas delved deeper into the case, he learned more about Eleanor Whitmore. She was a woman of quiet strength, dedicated to her work and beloved by those who knew her. But she was also a woman with ambitions, plans to modernize the library that had ruffled more than a few feathers in town. It wasn't long before Thomas had a list of potential suspects, each with their own motives for wanting Eleanor out of the picture. First on the list was Mayor Harold Jenkins, a man whose public feud with Eleanor was the talk of the town. Jenkins was a traditionalist, and Eleanor's plans threatened his vision of Millfield. Then there was Sarah, the assistant librarian, whose ambitions mirrored Eleanor's, but whose envy might have driven her to desperate measures. And finally, Dr. William Carter, a reclusive historian with a mysterious past and a penchant for secrets. As Thomas interviewed each suspect, he began to uncover the tangled web of relationships and resentments that bound them. Sarah revealed Eleanor's plans to introduce new technologies and ideas, which many in the town saw as a threat to their way of life. Mayor Jenkins, with his shaky alibi and political ambitions, seemed to have everything to gain from Eleanor's demise. Dr. Carter, on the other hand, was an enigma, his motives hidden beneath layers of scholarly detachment. Clues continued to emerge, each one adding another layer to the mystery. A burned book, its pages fused together, held a hidden message that only became clear when exposed to the light. A lipstick-stained cigarette found near the scene suggested a clandestine meeting. And then there was the telegram, its code indecipherable at first, but hinting at a conspiracy that reached beyond Millfield's borders. With each revelation, Thomas found himself drawn deeper into the town's political landscape. Factions vied for control, alliances were made and broken, and the specter of Eleanor's death loomed over it all. A phantom sighting in the library only added to the tension, fueling rumors of a ghostly presence and keeping the townsfolk on edge. One particularly chilling clue was a train ticket found in the ashes, its destination unknown, but its implications clear. Someone had planned to leave town, possibly to escape the consequences of their actions. But who? And why? As Thomas pieced together the puzzle, he couldn't shake the feeling that Eleanor's death was more than just a tragic accident. The time-stamped letter found in her desk, written the day before her death, hinted at secrets she had uncovered, secrets that someone was willing to kill to protect. In the end, it was a combination of logic and intuition that led Thomas to the truth. The clues, once disparate and confusing, began to align, forming a picture that was both shocking and inevitable. The confrontation that followed was dramatic, the resolution bittersweet as the town came to terms with its secrets and the loss of a beloved figure. Reflecting on the case, Thomas realized that the true heart of the mystery lay not in the fire itself, but in the human stories that surrounded it. The library's restoration, a symbol of hope and renewal, was a testament to the power of community and the enduring legacy of knowledge. As he prepared to leave Millfield, Thomas couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He had solved the puzzle, uncovered the truth, and in doing so, had helped the town heal. But more than that, he had been reminded of the importance of curiosity, of asking the right questions and never taking things at face value. And as the train carried him away, he knew that wherever the next case took him, he would carry that lesson with him. As the sun dipped below the horizon on that fateful evening in 1924, a peculiar hush settled over the small Midwest town. The Carnegie Library, usually a beacon of light and knowledge, was now a silhouette against the deepening twilight. Its grand brick facade stood silently, unaware of the impending chaos that would soon engulf it. Inside, the librarian, Miss Eleanor Whitmore, was performing her usual closing rituals, oblivious to the danger lurking in the shadows. Miss Whitmore was the heart of the library, a woman dedicated to her work and respected by the townsfolk. Her gentle demeanor and passion for books made her a beloved figure, yet she was not without her secrets. As she moved through the aisles, adjusting books and tidying up, an old oil lamp flickered ominously on her desk. It was an heirloom, a relic of a bygone era, but tonight it would become a catalyst for tragedy. The clock struck 8, and the library was officially closed. Outside, the streets were quiet, the usual chatter of townspeople replaced by the distant hum of a Model T Ford passing by. Inside, however, the atmosphere was charged with an eerie tension. The lamp's flame danced erratically, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets from the past. And then, without warning, it happened. A shattering explosion that pierced the silence and sent a fiery inferno raging through the library. As flames consumed the wooden shelves and ancient volumes, the townspeople rushed to the scene. Among them was Thomas Granger, a traveling insurance adjuster whose keen eye for detail had solved many a mystery. He arrived just as the fire brigade began their battle against the blaze, his heart sinking at the sight of the beloved library in ruins. But it was what they found in the aftermath that truly shook the town to its core. Miss Whitmore, lifeless amidst the ashes, her legacy reduced to cinders. The important thing to remember is that every mystery has its clues, and Granger knew this all too well. As the smoke cleared and the town mourned, he set about his investigation with methodical precision. The first clue appeared almost immediately, a charred ledger, its pages singed but still legible. It was a record of the library's financial dealings, but something about it seemed off. Furthermore, a melted pocket watch lay near Eleanor's body, its hands frozen at precisely 8:15, marking the moment of the explosion. And then there was the cryptic note, half-burned and barely readable, yet hinting at secrets Miss Whitmore had taken to her grave. Consider this scenario, a town divided by politics, where old grudges simmer beneath the surface. Granger knew that the library was more than just a repository of books. It was a battleground for power and influence. Mayor Harold Jenkins, a man with grand ambitions, had been at odds with Eleanor over her plans to modernize the library. Their feud was public and bitter, providing Granger with his first suspect. But Jenkins wasn't the only one with a motive. Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian, had her own reasons for wanting Eleanor out of the picture. She had long coveted the head librarian position, and Eleanor's death could pave the way for her ascension. Then there was Dr. William Carter, a reclusive historian with a mysterious past. His frequent visits to the library and his interest in its rare collections had raised more than a few eyebrows. Each of these individuals had secrets, and Granger was determined to uncover them. As he pieced together the puzzle, Granger discovered a burned book with a hidden message scrawled in its margins. The message was cryptic, yet it hinted at a conspiracy that reached far beyond the library's walls. The plot thickened with the discovery of a lipstick-stained cigarette, an oddity given Eleanor's known disdain for smoking. Was it a clue or merely a distraction? The answer lay in the details, and Granger's keen mind was already at work. The reality is, in a town where alliances shift like the wind, the truth is often buried beneath layers of deception. Granger's investigation led him deeper into the town's political landscape, where he navigated a web of alliances and betrayals. Mayor Jenkins, with his shaky alibi and political machinations, remained a prime suspect. Yet, as Granger delved into the town's secrets, he realized that the truth was more complex than he had imagined. One evening, as Granger pondered the case in the dim light of his rented room, a telegram arrived. It contained a mysterious code, a series of numbers and letters that seemed to hold the key to the mystery. Granger spent hours deciphering it, his mind racing with possibilities. The message revealed a clandestine meeting, a gathering of individuals with much to gain from Eleanor's demise. But who were they, and what role did they play in the tragedy? Meanwhile, whispers of a phantom sighting in the library added a layer of intrigue to the case. Some claimed to have seen Eleanor's ghost, wandering the charred remains of her beloved library. Granger, ever the skeptic, dismissed the notion of the supernatural, but couldn't ignore the fear it instilled in the townsfolk. The sighting was a distraction, he concluded, a ploy to keep him from the truth. As Granger continued his investigation, he stumbled upon a train ticket buried in the ashes. It was a one-way ticket to Chicago, dated the day after the explosion. Who had intended to leave town, and why? The ticket raised more questions than answers, yet it provided a crucial piece of the puzzle. Granger's instincts told him that someone had planned to flee, but the explosion had thwarted their escape. In a bid to uncover more about Eleanor's past, Granger held a seance in the library's ruins. The event was met with skepticism, but it revealed more than he had anticipated. The seance uncovered a time-stamped letter hidden in Eleanor's desk, a letter that spoke of betrayal and revenge. It was a testament to the dangers she faced and the enemies she had made. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Granger faced a dramatic confrontation with the true culprit. The motive and method behind Eleanor's death were finally revealed, a chilling tale of greed and ambition. The resolution brought closure to the town, yet it also forced the community to confront its own secrets and deceit. Reflecting on the case, Granger realized that the library's restoration symbolized more than just rebuilding. It was a chance for the town to heal and move forward. As the dust settled and the library began its rebirth, Granger pondered the power of knowledge and community, and the importance of preserving both. Now, as you consider the mystery, ask yourself, what would you do next? With the clues laid bare and the truth revealed, how would you approach the case? The answers lie not just in the evidence, but in the understanding of human nature and the complexities of the human heart. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and charred paper, a haunting reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded at the heart of the community. The townsfolk gathered in somber clusters outside the smoldering ruins of the Carnegie Library, their faces etched with disbelief and sorrow. It was as if the very soul of the town had been scorched, leaving behind a void that whispered of loss and unanswered questions. Thomas Granger, a man whose meticulous nature was as much a part of him as his own shadow, arrived at the scene with a sense of urgency. As an insurance adjuster, Thomas was accustomed to assessing damage and piecing together the remnants of misfortune. But this time, the stakes were personal. The death of Miss Eleanor Whitmore, the beloved librarian, weighed heavily on him. Not merely as a loss to the community, but as a puzzle begging to be solved. Thomas navigated through the crowd with a determined stride, his mind already sifting through the details of the night's events. He had a knack for puzzles and a penchant for finding patterns where others saw chaos. This was a skill that had served him well in his profession, and now it was guiding him through the ashes of tragedy. Conversation buzzed around him, snippets of information floating through the air like the ashes that still drifted from the ruins. "It was the oil lamp," someone murmured, their voice tinged with disbelief. "Exploded, they say. Just like that." Another voice chimed in, "Poor Eleanor, God rest her soul." Thomas listened, his mind cataloging each detail, each piece of the puzzle that might lead him to the truth. He approached the remnants of the library, the heat from the dying embers warming his face. The sight was a stark contrast to the vibrant hub of knowledge it had once been. Now it was a graveyard of books, their pages curled and blackened, their stories lost to the flames. Yet amidst the destruction, Thomas's sharp eyes caught sight of something peculiar. A charred ledger lay among the debris, its contents partially legible. Thomas knelt down, carefully retrieving it from the ashes. The ledger hinted at financial discrepancies, numbers that didn't quite add up. Could this be a motive for arson? The thought flickered through his mind, igniting a spark of curiosity. It was a clue, the first of many, and it pointed to a deeper mystery beneath the surface of the tragedy. Nearby, a melted pocket watch lay in the soot, its hands frozen in time. It marked the moment of the explosion, a silent witness to the chaos that had ensued. Thomas picked it up, noting its significance. Time had stopped for Eleanor, but for him it was a starting point, a moment to be unraveled. As he continued to sift through the ashes, another discovery piqued his interest. A cryptic note, partially burned but still decipherable, lay near where Eleanor's body had been found. Its message was obscure, yet it suggested a secret, something Eleanor might have been guarding. What could have been so important that it led to her untimely demise? Thomas's mind raced with possibilities. He was methodical, yet there was an ease to his interactions with the townsfolk that drew them in, encouraging them to share what they knew. It was as if he carried an aura of trust, a sense that he was there not just to assess the damage, but to bring closure to a community in mourning. He spoke with those who had been closest to Eleanor, gathering insights into her life and the events leading up to the fire. The conversations were peppered with anecdotes of her dedication to the library, her plans to modernize its offerings, and the feuds she had with those who resisted change. Each story added layers to the narrative, painting a picture of a woman who was both revered and misunderstood. One thing that became clear was Eleanor's unwavering commitment to the library and its patrons. She had been a beacon of knowledge, guiding the townsfolk with a gentle yet firm hand. Her plans to modernize the library had been met with resistance, particularly from those who feared change. Could this have played a role in her death? Thomas considered the suspects, each with their own motives and secrets. Mayor Harold Jenkins, who had a public feud with Eleanor over the library's funding, stood out in his mind. Then there was Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian whose aspirations might have clashed with Eleanor's vision, and Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian with a penchant for the past, who had been seen arguing with Eleanor just days before the fire. As Thomas stood amidst the ruins, the weight of the mystery settled over him. He resolved to uncover the truth behind Eleanor's death, to piece together the clues and bring justice to a community in mourning. It was a task that would consume him, yet it was one he embraced with determination. This moment served as a bridge to the next chapter of his investigation. The library, once a symbol of knowledge and community, now held secrets that needed to be unearthed. Thomas was ready to delve deeper, to explore the history of the library and the intricate web of relationships that had been woven around it. As he turned to leave, the townsfolk watched him with a mix of hope and curiosity. Thomas Granger was not just an insurance adjuster. In this moment, he was their detective, their beacon of hope amidst the ashes. And as he walked away from the ruins, the promise of discovery lingered in the air, a whisper of truth waiting to be revealed. So what would you do next if you were standing in Thomas's shoes? Would you follow the trail of financial discrepancies, delve into the personal lives of the suspects, or perhaps explore the cryptic note's hidden meaning? The mystery was just beginning, and the path to the truth was paved with questions waiting to be answered. The air around the Carnegie Library was heavy with the lingering scent of smoke, a reminder of the fire that had ravaged its walls. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the town, Thomas Granger stood amidst the ruins, his mind already at work. The townsfolk milled about, their whispers a soft murmur that filled the silence. It was a scene of chaos, yet Thomas, with his calm and methodical demeanor, saw it as a puzzle waiting to be solved. Thomas Granger was no ordinary insurance adjuster. His knack for puzzles and his meticulous attention to detail had earned him a reputation as a man who could uncover the truth hidden in the most unlikely places. As he surveyed the charred remains of the library, he felt the familiar thrill of a mystery unfolding. This was no mere accident. The clues were there, waiting to be found. His first discovery was a charred ledger, its pages brittle and blackened by the flames. It lay half-buried under a pile of debris, its edges curled and singed. Thomas crouched down, carefully extracting it from the rubble. The ledger was significant. It could be a record of transactions, a list of secrets Eleanor Whitmore, the late librarian, had kept. As he thumbed through the scorched pages, he noted the faint outlines of numbers and names, hints of a story waiting to be told. Nearby, a melted pocket watch caught his eye. Its glass was shattered, and its hands were frozen at a peculiar time. Thomas picked it up, turning it over in his hands. The time it had stopped could be a crucial clue, perhaps marking the moment of Eleanor's last breath or signaling something more sinister. Who had owned this watch, and why had it been left behind? As he continued his search, Thomas stumbled upon a cryptic note, partially burned, yet still legible. Written in elegant script, the note contained a series of numbers and letters that seemed to form a code. This discovery added a layer of complexity to the mystery, suggesting a hidden message or a clandestine communication Eleanor might have been involved in. Thomas's mind raced with possibilities, each more intriguing than the last. Throughout his examination, Thomas's thoughts were a constant stream of analysis. He considered the significance of each clue, pondering how they might connect to the suspects he would soon encounter. The townspeople were a tapestry of emotions, their faces etched with grief and suspicion. Thomas observed their reactions, noting potential motives and alliances. His internal monologue was a window into his analytical mind, inviting readers to join him in piecing together the puzzle. Standing amidst the ruins, Thomas felt the weight of the clues pressing down on him. The sun had set, leaving the town shrouded in darkness, the only light coming from the flickering lanterns of the townsfolk. The shadows stretched long across the ground, mirroring the mysteries still hidden from view. As Thomas turned away from the library, he resolved to uncover the truth behind Eleanor's death. The investigation was just beginning, and he was determined to follow the trail of clues wherever it might lead. The charred ledger, the melted pocket watch, and the cryptic note were just the beginning. Each clue was a thread in the intricate web of the story, ensuring that the plot flowed logically and each event felt inevitable in hindsight. Thomas's determination and the town's collective grief created a sense of urgency and empathy, drawing readers deeper into the narrative. As Thomas walked away from the scene, he couldn't help but reflect on the town itself. It was a place steeped in history, with the library at its heart. The building had been more than just a repository of books. It was a symbol of knowledge and community, a beacon of learning in the rural Midwest. Its destruction was a blow to the town, a loss that resonated deeply with its inhabitants. Thomas knew that the library's significance would play a crucial role in his investigation. The building had been a battleground for ideas and ambitions, a place where the past and future collided. Eleanor Whitmore had been at the center of it all, a figure both revered and reviled. Her plans to modernize the library had threatened the status quo, stirring up tensions among the townsfolk. As he made his way through the town, Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that the answers he sought were closer than they appeared. The townspeople were a wealth of information, each with their own stories and secrets. He would need to tread carefully, navigating the delicate web of alliances and betrayals that lay beneath the surface. Thomas's next steps were clear. He would need to interview the key suspects, starting with Mayor Harold Jenkins. The mayor had been at odds with Eleanor, their public feud a well-known fact. His political ambitions were no secret, and Thomas suspected that his alibi might not hold up under scrutiny. Then there was Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian, who had been eager to take Eleanor's place. Her motives were less clear, but Thomas sensed that she had more to reveal. Dr. Rock. William Carter, the reclusive historian, was another figure of interest. His relationship with Eleanor had been shrouded in mystery, and Thomas wondered what secrets he might be hiding. The historian's knowledge of the library's history could prove invaluable, but Thomas knew he would need to approach him with caution. With each step, Thomas felt the weight of the investigation pressing down on him. The clues were there, waiting to be pieced together, but the path to the truth was far from clear. As he prepared to delve deeper into the mystery, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. This was what he lived for. The thrill of the chase, the satisfaction of unraveling a complex puzzle. The night was still young, and Thomas knew there was much work to be done. The town was a tapestry of secrets, each thread waiting to be unraveled. As he set off into the darkness, he resolved to leave no stone unturned in his quest for the truth. The flames of mystery burned brightly in his mind, guiding him forward into the unknown. In the days that followed, Thomas would uncover more clues, each one adding to the intricate web of the story. The burned book with a hidden message, the lipstick-stained cigarette, and the telegram with the mysterious code were just the beginning. Each discovery brought him closer to the truth, but also deeper into the labyrinth of secrets and lies. As the investigation unfolded, Thomas found himself drawn into the lives of the townspeople. Their stories were a rich tapestry of human emotion, filled with love, loss, ambition, and betrayal. He listened carefully, piecing together the fragments of their lives, each one a clue in its own right. Thomas's journey was not without its challenges. The town's political landscape was a minefield, with factions vying for control. He would need to navigate this delicate terrain with care, avoiding the pitfalls that lay in wait. The phantom sighting in the library added another layer of intrigue, hinting at a supernatural element that could not be ignored. As the days turned into weeks, Thomas's determination never wavered. He was driven by a deep sense of justice, a desire to uncover the truth and bring closure to the town. The ghost of Eleanor Whitmore loomed large in his mind, a reminder of the stakes involved. In the end, it would be the smallest details that would lead Thomas to the truth. The time-stamped letter found in Eleanor's desk, the train ticket discovered in the ashes, and the cryptic note were all pieces of the puzzle. Each clue was a step closer to the resolution, a key to unlocking the mysteries that lay hidden. As Thomas stood before the townsfolk, the weight of the investigation heavy on his shoulders, he knew that the time had come to reveal the truth. The final confrontation would be dramatic, a culmination of all that had come before. The true motive and method behind Eleanor's death would be laid bare, and the town would be forced to confront its secrets. The resolution would bring closure, but also a sense of renewal. The library would rise from the ashes, a symbol of hope and the enduring power of knowledge. As Thomas reflected on the case, he realized that he had grown as well. His understanding of the world deepened by the experience. The journey had been long and arduous, but the lessons learned were invaluable. The power of community, the importance of truth, and the resilience of the human spirit were themes that resonated deeply with Thomas. As he prepared to leave the town, he carried these lessons with him, a reminder of the impact one person can have in the world. With the case solved, the town could begin to heal, its wounds slowly mending. The library would be restored, its doors open once more to the curious and the learned. And as Thomas Granger set off into the sunset, he knew that the flames of mystery would continue to burn brightly in his mind, guiding him on to the next adventure. Chapter 2, Shadows of the Past. Thomas Granger stood in the dimly lit library, the charred scent of smoke still lingering in the air. The town's beloved Carnegie Library wasn't just a building, it was a repository of secrets and stories, both old and new. As Thomas delved into the mystery of Eleanor's untimely death, he couldn't shake the feeling that the past was casting long shadows over the present. The library's history was as rich as its collection, a cultural cornerstone in the small Midwest town. The feud between Eleanor and Mayor Harold Jenkins was well known, their public arguments over library funding echoing through the town like a bad penny. Meanwhile, Sarah, the assistant librarian, had her own dreams of transforming the library into a modern marvel, a vision Eleanor hadn't shared. Then there was Dr. William Carter, the enigmatic historian whose knowledge of the library's past seemed to run deeper than the archives themselves. Each suspect had their own motives, and Thomas was determined to uncover the truth hidden beneath layers of deception. As he combed through the remains, Thomas discovered a burned book with a cryptic message tucked inside its pages. Nearby, a lipstick-stained cigarette hinted at a clandestine meeting. These clues, seemingly innocuous, began to weave a tapestry of intrigue and suspicion. With each new piece of evidence, Thomas found himself questioning the relationships and motivations of those involved. Was the library's past the key to understanding Eleanor's fate? And more importantly, who stood to gain from her death? As Thomas pondered these questions, he knew one thing for certain. The shadows of the past were long, and they were far from silent. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke as Thomas Granger stood amidst the charred remains of the Carnegie Library. The once proud structure, a beacon of knowledge and community pride, now lay in ruins. For Thomas, a meticulous insurance adjuster with a penchant for puzzles, this was more than just another assignment. It was a mystery that beckoned him to uncover the truth behind the enigmatic death of Miss Eleanor Whitmore. Thomas's investigation began with a methodical examination of the library's ruins. His keen eye caught the charred ledger amidst the debris, its pages warped and blackened, yet whispering secrets of past transactions. As he gingerly turned the pages, he noted entries that hinted at financial discrepancies, perhaps a motive for murder. Nearby, a melted pocket watch lay solemnly, a silent testament to the final moments before the explosion. Its hands were frozen at the time of the blast, providing a chilling timestamp of Eleanor's last moments. As Thomas sifted through the ashes, he discovered a cryptic note, partially burnt, hinting at a clandestine meeting. The words "midnight" and "cornerstone" were barely legible, but they set the stage for the intrigue that was to follow. It was clear that Eleanor had been involved in something far more complex than her role as a librarian suggested. The library, funded by the philanthropist Andrew Carnegie, was more than just a repository of books. It was a symbol of progress and cultural pride for the town. Thomas's exploration of its history revealed its pivotal role in the community, a place where secrets were both kept and uncovered. This made Eleanor's death all the more poignant, as she had been the guardian of this treasure trove of knowledge. As Thomas delved deeper into the investigation, he encountered the key suspects, each shrouded in their own veil of mystery. Mayor Harold Jenkins, a man with political ambitions and a public feud over library funding, emerged as a figure of suspicion. His shaky alibi and the pressure of an upcoming election added layers of complexity to the case. Then there was Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian, portrayed as a woman of vision, eager to modernize the library. Her aspirations, however, may have led to unforeseen consequences, making her a person of interest. Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian, lurked in the shadows. His extensive knowledge of the town's past was cloaked in ambiguity, and his reluctance to share information made Thomas wary. Each of these characters added a different dimension to the investigation, their interactions with Thomas laced with tension and curiosity. Thomas's conversational approach allowed him to glean insights from the suspects. Each interview revealed more about their motives and potential involvement. During a conversation with Sarah, she mentioned Eleanor's plans to digitize the library's collection, a move that threatened the status quo and could have upset those resistant to change. Mayor Jenkins, on the other hand, was evasive about his whereabouts on the night of the explosion, and his political ambitions seemed to overshadow his grief for the town's loss. In the midst of these interviews, Thomas discovered a burned book with a hidden message. The book, a rare edition of Great Expectations, had a note tucked inside its cover, written in Eleanor's handwriting. It spoke of a new beginning and hidden truths, suggesting that Eleanor had uncovered something significant. Alongside this, a lipstick-stained cigarette was found near Eleanor's desk, adding another layer of intrigue to the unfolding mystery. The emotional depth of the investigation weighed heavily on Thomas. He was a man used to maintaining professional detachment, yet he found himself increasingly invested in the case. The more he learned about Eleanor and her dedication to the library, the more he felt compelled to bring her justice. His internal struggle was palpable, as he balanced his analytical mind with a growing personal connection to the people and stories entwined with the library. As the subchapter drew to a close, Thomas was left with more questions than answers. The clues he had gathered painted a picture of a woman caught in a web of secrets and ambitions, but the full story remained elusive. His resolve, however, was unwavering. The stage was set for the next phase of his investigation. As the shadows of the past continued to cast their long, enigmatic reach over the town. In this moment of reflection, Thomas considered the implications of the evidence he had uncovered. The charred ledger, the melted pocket watch, the cryptic note, the burned book, and the lipstick-stained cigarette all pointed to a complex tapestry of motives and opportunities. Each clue was a piece of the puzzle, and he was determined to see how they fit together. The library's restoration would take time, but for Thomas, the priority was uncovering the truth. He knew that the answers lay hidden within the ashes, waiting for someone with the patience and insight to bring them to light. As he prepared to delve deeper into the mystery, he couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the Carnegie Library held, waiting to be discovered by those willing to look beyond the surface. As an illustration of the era's challenges, Thomas recalled a conversation with an elderly townsperson who reminisced about the library's opening day. "It was a grand affair," she had said, her eyes misty with nostalgia. "Eleanor was so proud, and we all felt like we were part of something bigger." This sense of community and shared history was at the heart of the library's significance, and it was this connection that Thomas sought to honor as he pursued the truth. With each passing day, Thomas became more attuned to the nuances of the town's dynamics. The feuding politics, the whispers of modernization, and the specter of Eleanor's ghost all played a role in shaping the narrative. His investigation was not just about solving a crime. It was about understanding the intricate web of relationships and histories that defined the town. As Thomas stood on the library's steps, looking out over the town, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges, but he was ready to face them head-on. The truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered, and Thomas Granger was the man to do it. Chapter 3: Whispers in the Stacks. Thomas Granger, a man of keen observation and endless curiosity, found himself in the library's quiet corners, where whispers seemed to linger among the dusty tomes. Interviewing the suspects, he began to peel back layers of secrets like pages in a well-worn book. Sarah, the assistant librarian, shared Eleanor Whitmore's ambitious plans to modernize the library, a move that threatened to disrupt the town's traditionalists. Eleanor always wanted to shake things up, Sarah mused, a hint of admiration in her voice. Meanwhile, Mayor Harold Jenkins, with his polished shoes and practiced smile, offered an alibi that felt as shaky as a rickety ladder. His political ambitions were no secret, and the library's modernization threatened his cozy relationship with the town's elite. "I was at the town hall meeting," he insisted, though his eyes darted nervously. Thomas noted this, filing it away with the other inconsistencies. Amidst these revelations, a telegram surfaced, its code as mysterious as a locked diary. Thomas studied it, knowing it held another piece to this intricate puzzle. Each clue, like a breadcrumb, led him deeper into the tangled web of motives and secrets. As he pieced together the story, the library's silent stacks seemed to whisper truths only he could hear. Thomas paused to consider, what was Eleanor's true vision for the library, and who stood to gain or lose the most from her plans? With each interview, he felt closer to unraveling the truth, yet the mystery deepened like the shadows in the stacks. What would you do next? Would you trust your instincts or the evidence laid before you? Thomas Granger stood amidst the charred remains of the Carnegie Library, the air still tinged with the acrid scent of smoke. This was the setting for his next step in unraveling the mystery that had engulfed this small Midwest town in 1924. With a methodical approach, Thomas prepared to interview the key suspects, each conversation a potential thread leading him closer to the truth. The library, once a beacon of knowledge and community, now lay in ruins, its silence punctuated by the distant sounds of reconstruction efforts. Thomas had laid out the clues gathered so far: a charred ledger, a melted pocket watch, a cryptic note, a burned book with a hidden message, and a lipstick-stained cigarette. Each item was a puzzle piece, hinting at secrets yet to be uncovered. His first interview was with Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian. They met in the library's reading room, where the ghostly smell of burnt paper lingered. Sarah was visibly nervous, her eyes frequently darting to the blackened walls. She had harbored dreams of modernizing the library, a vision shared by Eleanor, the late librarian. But progress often comes with resistance, and Eleanor's plans to replace older texts with newer ones had stirred discontent among the town's traditionalists. Sarah confided in Thomas about the threatening letters Eleanor had received, dismissing them as the price of progress. Yet, there was an undercurrent of fear in her voice, a hint that perhaps these threats were more serious than initially thought. Thomas listened intently, his conversational style putting Sarah at ease while he subtly probed for inconsistencies. He noted her hesitation when discussing the letters, a potential lead that could unravel part of the mystery. As their conversation drew to a close, Thomas thanked Sarah, his mind already piecing together the implications of her revelations. Next, Thomas found himself in the office of Mayor Harold Jenkins, a room steeped in political memorabilia and the lingering scent of cigars. The mayor was a man used to control, but today his demeanor was defensive, his alibi for the night of the fire shaky at best. He insisted that his disagreements with Eleanor were purely professional, yet his eyes betrayed a flicker of something more personal. Thomas sensed a tension beneath the surface, a reluctance to discuss his political ambitions that only added to the intrigue. As Thomas pressed on, Jenkins' discomfort grew. The mayor's evasiveness when asked about his whereabouts on the night of the fire was telling. His reluctance to delve into his political goals hinted at deeper motives, perhaps even a personal vendetta against Eleanor's progressive ideas. Thomas left the office with more questions than answers, but also with a clearer picture of the town's political landscape and the potential power struggles at play. The final interview took Thomas to the outskirts of town, to a small cottage where Dr. William Carter, a reclusive historian, resided. The setting was a stark contrast to the previous interviews, with shelves of dusty books and an air of solitude. Dr. Carter was an enigmatic figure, his answers laced with cryptic references to the past. He spoke of Eleanor's interest in a particular historical document, one he believed could change the town's history. Yet his evasiveness suggested he knew more than he was willing to share. Thomas found himself drawn into the historian's world, where every answer seemed to raise new questions. Dr. Carter's reluctance to divulge details about the document and Eleanor's research hinted at secrets that could hold the key to understanding the motives behind the fire. As Thomas concluded the interview, he couldn't shake the feeling that Dr. Carter was guarding a significant piece of the puzzle. Throughout these interviews, Thomas maintained a steady, conversational tone, skillfully navigating the complex web of truths and half-truths presented by each suspect. He was acutely aware that every interaction added a layer to the narrative, building suspense and deepening the intrigue surrounding Eleanor's death. As he reflected on the day's revelations, Thomas began to notice a pattern emerging. The connections between the suspects hinted at a larger conspiracy, one that intertwined personal ambitions with the town's future. The mysterious telegram with its coded message played on his mind, a tantalizing clue that seemed to hold the promise of unraveling the truth. Thomas spent the evening reviewing his notes, the clues laid out before him like a mosaic waiting to be completed. The charred ledger, the melted pocket watch, the cryptic note, the burned book, and the lipstick-stained cigarette each told a part of the story. But it was the relationships between the suspects and their connection to Eleanor's plans that seemed to hold the key to solving the mystery. In the quiet of his temporary lodgings, Thomas pondered his next steps. The interviews had provided valuable insights, but there was still much to uncover. The town's political tensions, the historical secrets, and the personal vendettas all pointed to a complex web of motives. Thomas knew that to solve this mystery, he would need to delve deeper into the lives of those involved, to understand the true motives hidden beneath the surface. This subchapter, interviewing the suspects, is a pivotal point in the narrative, heightening the tension and complexity of the case. It draws readers into the detective work alongside Thomas, inviting them to piece together the clues and unravel the mystery. The stage is set for subsequent revelations and the unfolding drama, ensuring that each event feels inevitable in hindsight. As Thomas prepared for the next phase of his investigation, he couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The truth was within reach, and with each step, he was drawing closer to uncovering the secrets hidden in the ashes of the Carnegie Library. Thomas Granger sat in the familiar warmth of the local cafe, the kind of place where the aroma of freshly ground coffee mingled with the town's daily gossip. It was a cozy corner, perfect for a conversation that promised to unravel more than just the mystery of a fire. Across from him sat Sarah, the assistant librarian whose sharp wit was only slightly dulled by a touch of nervousness. The cafe bustled around them, but Thomas's focus was solely on Sarah as he began to gently probe for details about the fateful night of the Carnegie Library fire. "Sarah, I appreciate you meeting with me," Thomas started, his tone as inviting as the steaming cup of coffee before him. "I know this isn't easy, but anything you can share about Eleanor's plans or that night could be crucial." Sarah nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. She was a visionary," she said, her voice gaining strength with each word. "She wanted to modernize the library, to digitize its records. It was revolutionary, but not everyone was on board." Thomas leaned in, intrigued. "Digitize the records? That sounds like quite the undertaking for a town like ours." "It was," Sarah confirmed, her eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and concern. Eleanor believed that the library held secrets, truths hidden in the archives, like she thought digitizing them could bring those truths to light. The conversation paused as a waiter refilled their cups, the clink of china punctuating the moment. Thomas noted the subtle tremor in Sarah's hand as she lifted her cup, a sign of the pressure she felt from the town's elite, those resistant to Eleanor's changes. "Did Eleanor ever mention anything specific that she found?" Thomas asked, his curiosity piqued. Sarah hesitated, glancing around the cafe as if the walls themselves might be listening. "She did. There was a document she discovered, something that could expose corruption within the town's political circles." Her voice dropped to a whisper, the weight of her words hanging in the air. A chill ran down Thomas's spine. This revelation added a new, dangerous layer to the mystery. "You're saying Eleanor's death might not have been an accident?" Sarah's eyes met his, filled with a mix of fear and determination. "I don't know for sure, but Eleanor was convinced that document was important. She even confided in me about a heated argument she had with Mayor Jenkins." Thomas's interest deepened. "What happened?" "It was the last time I saw her," Sarah recalled, her voice tinged with emotion. "They argued in the library, right in front of a few patrons. Eleanor was adamant about her plans, and Jenkins, well, he was furious. His alibi that night has always seemed shaky to me." Thomas absorbed this new information, his mind racing with possibilities. Mayor Jenkins had always been a suspect, but this confrontation added credibility to the theory of foul play. "Do you think Jenkins could be involved?" "I don't want to accuse anyone without proof," Sarah replied, her loyalty to Eleanor evident. "But I can't shake the feeling that Eleanor's work threatened more than just the library's tradition." Thomas nodded, appreciating her candor. "Sarah, anything else you can share could be vital. I promise to keep you informed about what I find." She hesitated again, then reached into her bag and pulled out a small, weathered notebook. "This belonged to Eleanor. It's filled with notes and sketches. Maybe it can help." Thomas accepted the notebook, carefully flipping through its pages. Among the cryptic notes and sketches, one caught his eye. A detailed drawing of the library's layout, with a hidden compartment marked in the margins. "This is incredible," Thomas said, his mind already planning his next move. A hidden compartment could be the key to everything. Sarah managed a small smile, relief evident in her expression. "I hope it helps. Eleanor deserves justice." Thomas stood, thanking Sarah for her courage and promising to keep her updated. As he left the cafe, the weight of the new revelations pressed on him. The case had grown more complex, but with each new piece of the puzzle, the picture became clearer. The sun was setting as Thomas walked back to his temporary quarters, the town's familiar streets bathed in the golden glow of dusk. His thoughts were consumed by the mystery, the tangled web of secrets, and the hope of uncovering the truth behind Eleanor's death. That night, Thomas sat at his desk, the notebook open before him. He meticulously examined each page, noting the cryptic symbols and sketches. The hidden compartment in the library was his next destination, a potential goldmine of evidence that could unravel the mystery once and for all. As the clock ticked away the hours, Thomas planned his clandestine search of the library. He would need to be cautious, as the stakes had never been higher. The possibility that Eleanor's death was a calculated move to silence her loomed large in his mind. With a deep breath, Thomas closed the notebook, his resolve firm. The truth was out there, buried within the library's walls, and he was determined to find it. The night stretched on, but Thomas's thoughts were clear. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new opportunities to piece together the mystery of the Carnegie Library fire. As he prepared for bed, Thomas reflected on the day's revelations. Sarah's courage had provided him with invaluable insights, and the notebook was a tangible connection to Eleanor's vision. The case was far from over, but with each step, Thomas felt closer to justice for Eleanor and the truth hidden in the ashes. Before drifting off to sleep, Thomas considered his next move. The hidden compartment awaited, and with it, the answers to questions that had haunted him since the fire. As he closed his eyes, he knew that tomorrow would bring him one step closer to solving the mystery and honoring Eleanor's legacy. Thomas Granger stood before the imposing doors of Mayor Harold Jenkins' office, the weight of the investigation hanging over him like a thick fog. The building itself seemed to exude authority, its brick facade a testament to the ambitions and machinations that played out within. As Thomas entered, he was greeted by the mayor's secretary, who, with a perfunctory nod, motioned him towards the office. The air was thick with the scent of polished wood and the faint aroma of cigar smoke, a stark reminder of the power wielded here. Inside, Mayor Jenkins sat behind a grand oak desk, his presence as commanding as the office itself. He greeted Thomas with a mixture of irritation and feigned politeness, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Mr. Granger," Jenkins began, his voice smooth yet edged with impatience, "I trust this meeting won't take too much of my time." Thomas, ever the meticulous investigator, returned the mayor's gaze with a steady calm. "I'll try to be brief, Mayor Jenkins," he replied, settling into the chair opposite the desk. "I wanted to discuss the night of the library fire." The mayor's expression flickered, a brief shadow crossing his features before he regained his composure. "Ah, yes, a terrible tragedy," Jenkins said, his tone carefully measured. "I was, as I've mentioned, at a late-night council meeting." Thomas nodded, though his skepticism was clear. "Odd that no one else seems to recall such a meeting," he remarked, watching Jenkins closely. The mayor shifted slightly, a subtle movement that spoke volumes. "It was an informal gathering," Jenkins countered, his voice taking on a defensive edge. "Not everyone was present." Thomas leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly. "And yet, no minutes were recorded, no witnesses to corroborate your presence. It does raise questions, don't you think?" Jenkins' irritation was palpable now, his fingers drumming a staccato rhythm on the desk. "Are you accusing me of something, Mr. Granger?" he snapped, the veneer of politeness slipping. "I'm simply seeking the truth," Thomas replied evenly. "Eleanor Whitmore's plans to modernize the library were well known, plans you opposed quite vocally, if I'm not mistaken." The mention of Eleanor's name seemed to unnerve Jenkins further. His demeanor shifted from defensive to aggressive, a flash of anger lighting his eyes. "Those plans were impractical," he retorted, his voice rising. "They would have drained the town's resources." Thomas noted the slight tremor in Jenkins' hands, the beads of sweat forming on his brow. "Perhaps," Thomas conceded, "but they also threatened the status quo, a status you seem keen to maintain." The tension in the room was palpable, a silent battle of wills playing out between the two men. Thomas, ever observant, noticed Jenkins' nervous glances towards a locked drawer in his desk. It was a small detail, but one that hinted at secrets yet uncovered. Reaching into his satchel, Thomas produced a telegram. The paper slightly crumpled, but the message clear. "I found this in the library's remains," he said, placing it on the desk. "A mysterious code. Perhaps you could shed some light on its meaning." Jenkins' reaction was immediate and telling. His face paled, and he stumbled over his words, a stark contrast to his earlier bravado. I have no idea what that is," he stammered, though his eyes betrayed him, flickering with recognition. Thomas allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. "Interesting," he mused, leaning back in his chair. "It seems there's more to this story than meets the eye." The mayor's composure was unraveling, his attempts to regain control of the conversation faltering. "If you're suggesting I had anything to do with that fire, you're sorely mistaken," Jenkins blustered, but his words lacked conviction. "I'm not suggesting anything," Thomas replied smoothly, "merely following the evidence." The room fell silent, the weight of unspoken truths hanging between them. Thomas could sense he was close to uncovering something significant, the pieces of the puzzle slowly falling into place. Jenkins' alibi, as thin as the smoke that once filled the library's halls, was unraveling under scrutiny. As Thomas rose to leave, he cast one final glance at the locked drawer, a silent promise to himself to uncover its secrets. "Thank you for your time, Mayor Jenkins," he said, his tone polite but firm. "I'll be in touch." Jenkins watched him go, his expression a mix of frustration and fear. The door closed behind Thomas with a soft click, leaving the mayor alone with his thoughts and the shadows of his past. Outside, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the town square, the air crisp with the promise of autumn. Thomas paused on the steps of the mayor's office, his mind racing with possibilities. Jenkins' alibi was crumbling, and with it, the facade of innocence he had so carefully constructed. The clues were there, scattered like breadcrumbs, leading him deeper into the mystery. A locked drawer, a coded telegram, and a mayor with too much to hide. Each piece nudged Thomas closer to the truth, the fire's origins slowly coming into focus. As he made his way back to the library's charred remains, Thomas felt a renewed sense of purpose. The investigation was far from over, but he was closer than ever to unraveling the tangled web of secrets that had ensnared the town. The library stood as a testament to the past, its burned walls whispering stories of ambition, betrayal, and loss. Yet amidst the ashes, there was hope, a chance to uncover the truth and bring justice to Eleanor Whitmore's memory. Thomas knew the path ahead would not be easy, but he was determined to see it through. The stakes were high, the consequences far-reaching, but the truth was worth the risk. As he stepped into the hushed silence of the library, he felt the weight of the town's history pressing down on him, a reminder of the responsibility he bore. With each step, he moved closer to the heart of the mystery, the pieces of the puzzle waiting to be assembled. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the town in a warm golden glow, Thomas Granger vowed to uncover the secrets hidden within the ashes of the Carnegie Library. Thomas Granger sat at the small round table in the corner of the town's only cafe, his fingers tapping a steady rhythm on the telegram that lay before him. The cafe smelled of fresh coffee and warm pastries, a comforting contrast to the cold, hard facts he was wrestling with. The telegram was a curious artifact, its cryptic message a puzzle yet to be solved. It seemed to hold the key to understanding the tragic events that had unfolded in the Carnegie Library just days before. Thomas was a man of detail, a quality that served him well in his profession as an insurance adjuster. His knack for puzzles was more than just a quirk. It was a skill honed over years of sifting through the minutiae of claims and contracts. And now that same skill was being put to the test in a case that was anything but ordinary. The library fire had left the town reeling, and the death of Miss Eleanor Whitmore, the beloved librarian, had cast a shadow over the community. But for Thomas, it was the mystery behind the tragedy that demanded his attention. The telegram in question was found amidst the ruins of the library, its edges singed but the message intact. Meet at the usual place, midnight, urgent. The sender was anonymous, the recipient unknown, yet Thomas suspected it was meant for Eleanor. The timing was suspicious, coinciding with the night of the fire. Was it a warning, a threat, or simply a coincidence? To unravel this mystery, Thomas knew he had to delve deeper into the lives of those connected to the library and its enigmatic librarian. His first stop was the town hall, a red-bricked building that stood as a testament to the town's modest prosperity. There, he hoped to find Mayor Harold Jenkins, a man whose public feud with Eleanor was well known. The mayor was a shrewd politician, ambitious and often ruthless in his pursuit of power. His disagreements with Eleanor over the library's future were no secret, but could they have escalated to murder? Thomas found the mayor in his office, surrounded by papers and the lingering scent of cigar smoke. Jenkins was a tall man, with a commanding presence and a sharp gaze that missed little. As Thomas entered, the mayor looked up, his expression a mix of annoyance and curiosity. "Mr. Granger," Jenkins said, extending a hand, "I assume you're here about the library incident." Thomas nodded, taking the offered seat. "I am. I understand you and Miss Whitmore had your differences." The mayor shrugged, a gesture that seemed both dismissive and defensive. Differences? Perhaps. Eleanor was a visionary, always pushing for changes that the town wasn't ready for, but to suggest anything more than that is preposterous. Thomas studied the man, noting the slight tremor in his hands, the way his eyes flickered away at the mention of Eleanor. And yet, the night of the fire, you were seen near the library. Care to explain? Jenkins leaned back, his expression hardening. I was there, yes. I had a meeting with a constituent. You can check with the cafe owner. I was there until well past midnight. An alibi, but one that could be easily verified. Thomas made a mental note to follow up, though he suspected the mayor was telling the truth. Still, there was something about Jenkins that didn't sit right, a sense that he was holding back more than he was revealing. Leaving the town hall, Thomas's next destination was the home of Sarah, the assistant librarian. Sarah was young, eager, and ambitious, qualities that had made her both a protégé and a rival to Eleanor. Her modest home was filled with books and the scent of lavender, a reflection of her love for literature and order. Sarah greeted Thomas with a wary smile, her eyes betraying a mix of grief and determination. I suppose you want to know about Eleanor, she said, leading him to a small sitting room. Thomas nodded, taking in the surroundings. I do. You worked closely with her. Did she ever mention anything about a telegram or a secret meeting? Sarah frowned, her brow furrowing in thought. A telegram? No, she never mentioned anything like that, but she did seem preoccupied lately. She had big plans for the library, you know. Plans that not everyone agreed with, such as, Thomas prompted, sensing a lead. She wanted to modernize the library, bring in new books, new ideas, but some people, like Mayor Jenkins, thought it was too much too soon. There was a lot of resistance. Thomas considered this, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together. And what about you, Sarah? How did you feel about Eleanor's plans? Sarah hesitated, her eyes flickering with emotion. I admired her vision, but it was hard. She was demanding, and sometimes I felt like I was in her shadow. But I would never, I couldn't. Her voice trailed off, the implication clear. Thomas nodded, understanding the unspoken words. Ambition could be a powerful motivator, but was it enough to drive someone to murder? He wasn't sure yet, but Sarah's words had given him much to think about. Leaving Sarah's home, Thomas's mind was a whirl of possibilities. The telegram, the mayor's alibi, Sarah's ambitions, all were pieces of a larger puzzle. But there was one more person he needed to speak with, someone who might hold the key to the mystery. Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian. Dr. Carter lived on the outskirts of town, his house a testament to his solitary nature. Books and papers cluttered every surface, the air thick with the scent of old parchment and ink. The historian was a man of few words, but his knowledge of the library and its history was unparalleled. Thomas found him in his study, hunched over a pile of manuscripts. Dr. Carter, he began, I'm investigating the fire at the library. I understand you were close to Miss Whitmore. Carter looked up, his eyes sharp and penetrating. Eleanor and I shared a love for history, for preserving the past. Her death is a great loss. Did she ever mention anything about a telegram or a secret meeting? Thomas asked, watching the man's reaction closely. Carter shook his head, his expression thoughtful. No, but she was concerned about something. She mentioned receiving strange messages, but she didn't elaborate. Strange messages? Like what? I'm not sure. She was always careful with her words, always cautious, but she did say she felt like she was being watched. The revelation sent a shiver down Thomas's spine. The pieces were starting to fit, but there was still much he didn't understand. The telegram, the strange messages, the sense of being watched, it all pointed to something more sinister than a simple accident. As Thomas left Dr. Carter's home, his mind was racing with possibilities. The case was far from solved, but he was closer to the truth than ever before. The telegram was a crucial piece of evidence, a thread that could unravel the entire mystery. But to do so, he needed to think like Eleanor, to see the world through her eyes. That night, as Thomas sat in his small rented room, he spread out the clues before him, the telegram, the burned book with its hidden message, the lipstick-stained cigarette. Each was a piece of a larger puzzle, a puzzle that he was determined to solve. As the clock ticked towards midnight, Thomas felt a sense of clarity wash over him. The answers were there, hidden in plain sight. All he needed was the key to unlock them. Interactive puzzle. Consider the telegram and the timeline of events. Who had the opportunity to send the message, and what could it mean? Reflect on the suspects' alibis and motives. Who stands to gain the most from Eleanor's death? What would you do next? As the reader, put yourself in Thomas's shoes. With the clues at hand, consider your next move. Who would you question further, and what questions would you ask to uncover the truth? Chapter 4: The Politics of Silence. Picture this, a small town where whispers travel faster than the wind. The political scene here is a chessboard, each move calculated, every alliance forged in shadows. After Eleanor's untimely death, the town's factions are in a silent uproar, each vying for control like wolves circling their prey. Thomas Granger, our insurance adjuster turned detective, finds himself at the heart of this intrigue, peeling back layers of deceit like an onion. As Thomas delves deeper, he uncovers a tapestry of old grudges and hidden motives. Mayor Jenkins, with his shaky alibi, seems more concerned with his political future than justice. Sarah, the assistant librarian, hints at Eleanor's plans to shake up the library, a move that threatened the status quo. Dr. Carter, the reclusive historian, remains an enigma, his motives as murky as the town's past. Amidst this chaos, a phantom sighting in the library sends shivers down spines, adding a supernatural twist to the already tangled web. Is it Eleanor's spirit refusing to rest, or a cleverly crafted distraction? In the ashes of the library, Thomas finds a train ticket, an artifact that raises more questions than answers. Was Eleanor planning an escape, or was she meeting someone under the cover of darkness? The potential for uncovering the truth is significant, but the path is fraught with danger. As Thomas navigates this treacherous political landscape, he must discern friend from foe, truth from illusion. Worth noting is how silence speaks volumes in this town, where every unspoken word could be the key to solving the mystery. Thomas Granger had never seen the town hall so alive, or perhaps it was more accurate to say so tense. The air was thick with anticipation, and the kind of energy that comes from a room full of people who all have something to say but are waiting for the right moment to say it. It was 1924, a time when small-town politics could be as cutthroat as any big city, and tonight was no exception. As Thomas took his seat at the back of the room, he couldn't help but notice the key players scattered throughout the hall. Mayor Harold Jenkins stood at the front, his booming voice attempting to assert control over the chaos. Jenkins was a man whose charm could fill a room, but Thomas knew better than to be fooled by his polished exterior. Beneath that veneer lay an ambition that knew no bounds. In the corner, almost blending into the shadows, was Sarah, the assistant librarian. Her quiet demeanor belied the influence she wielded, thanks to her intimate knowledge of the town's secrets. She was the kind of person who knew exactly which strings to pull and when, and Thomas was keenly aware of her potential role in the unfolding drama. And then there was Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian, whose presence was as silent as it was significant. He sat at the edge of the crowd, his eyes taking in everything with a detached curiosity. Thomas had always found Dr. Carter's insights invaluable, even if the man rarely spoke. The meeting was a cacophony of voices, each faction vying for dominance in the wake of Eleanor Whitmore's tragic death. Eleanor, the beloved librarian, had been a beacon of change, her plans to modernize the library threatening the comfortable status quo that many had grown accustomed to. Her death had left a void, not just in the library but in the very fabric of the town. Thomas listened intently as the verbal sparring began, noting the alliances forming and the whispered conversations that seemed to carry more weight than the speeches being made. It was a dance of power and influence, and Thomas was determined to uncover the hidden agendas at play. As the meeting reached a fever pitch, a startling announcement silenced the crowd. A phantom had been sighted in the library. The news sent a ripple of unease through the room, adding an unexpected supernatural element to an already complex mystery. It was as if Eleanor's death had stirred forces beyond the earthly realm, and Thomas couldn't help but wonder if this was a sign of things to come. Leaving the meeting, Thomas reflected on the tangled web of small-town politics. It was a landscape where personal vendettas collided with public personas, and where power was often wielded in whispers rather than shouts. He recalled a conversation with Sarah, who had hinted at the resistance Eleanor faced in her efforts to bring the library into the modern age. It was a revelation that suggested Eleanor's death might have been more than just a personal vendetta. It could very well have been a calculated political maneuver. As Thomas walked through the quiet streets, his mind returned to the train ticket he had found in the ashes of the library. It was a clue that suggested a possible escape plan or a clandestine meeting, and its destination, a nearby city known for its bustling political scene, hinted at connections beyond the town's borders. It was a lead that Thomas knew he couldn't ignore. The town's political landscape was becoming increasingly clear to Thomas, a tangled web of ambition and deceit that threatened to ensnare anyone who dared to challenge the status quo. He was determined to navigate these treacherous waters, to uncover the truths that lay buried beneath the surface. In the days following the town hall meeting, Thomas found himself piecing together the clues, each one adding a new layer to the mystery. The burned book with its hidden message, the lipstick-stained cigarette, the telegram with its mysterious code, each clue seemed to point to a larger conspiracy, one that went beyond the simple tragedy of Eleanor's death. Thomas's investigation led him back to the library, where the ghostly presence of Eleanor seemed to linger in the air. It was here that he discovered a time-stamped letter hidden in Eleanor's desk, a letter that spoke of her plans and her fears. It was a poignant reminder that Eleanor had been more than just a librarian. She had been a visionary, a woman determined to bring about change in a town resistant to it. The seance held in the library provided further insight into Eleanor's past and her enemies. It was a night filled with revelations, as the spirits seemed to speak through the medium, revealing secrets long buried. It was a chilling reminder of the forces at play, both earthly and otherwise. As Thomas pieced together the clues, he began to see the bigger picture. The alliances formed, the whispered conversations, the phantom sightings, all were part of a larger narrative, one that spoke of power and ambition, of secrets and lies. The final confrontation was inevitable, a dramatic culmination of the events that had unfolded. Thomas stood face to face with the truth, the motive and method behind Eleanor's death laid bare. It was a moment of clarity, as the intricate web of deceit unraveled before him. In the aftermath, the town was left to grapple with the revelations. The library, once a symbol of the past, began its restoration, a beacon of hope and renewal for a community ready to move forward. Thomas, too, found himself changed by the experience, his understanding of the town and its people deepened by the journey. As he reflected on the case, Thomas realized that the power of knowledge and community was greater than any one person's ambition. It was a lesson that would stay with him, a reminder of the importance of truth and the courage it takes to seek it out. And so the mystery of Eleanor's death was solved, the secrets buried in the ashes of the Carnegie Library finally brought to light. But for Thomas, the journey was far from over. There were always more mysteries to uncover, more truths to be revealed. And in a town as complex as this one, there would always be more stories to tell. As he prepared to leave the town, Thomas couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He had navigated the treacherous waters of small-town politics, uncovered the truths that lay hidden beneath the surface, and emerged with a deeper understanding of the community he had come to know so well. And as he boarded the train, the ticket in his pocket a reminder of the journey he had undertaken, Thomas knew that he would carry the lessons of this case with him, wherever his travels might take him next. Thomas Granger had always prided himself on being a man of reason. As an insurance adjuster, his world revolved around facts, figures, and the tangible. Yet, as he stood before the charred remains of the Carnegie Library, he found himself grappling with something far less concrete, a ghostly presence that seemed to have taken up residence among the ruins. The townspeople had been buzzing about phantom sightings ever since Eleanor Whitmore's untimely death. It was a whisper that grew louder with each passing day, and now it had reached Thomas's ears. He received the news from a group of locals who had seen a spectral figure moving through the library's ruins at night. Most people might have dismissed these tales as mere superstition, but Thomas, intrigued despite himself, decided to investigate. After all, every rumor had a kernel of truth, and he was determined to uncover it. That evening, equipped with nothing more than a flashlight and a notebook, Thomas set up a makeshift camp in the library's hollow shell. The night air was crisp, filled with the scent of ash and the faint rustle of leaves. As the moon cast its silvery glow over the desolate landscape, Thomas settled in for what promised to be a long night. He couldn't help but feel a twinge of excitement. There was something about the unknown that both unnerved and exhilarated him. The library, once a beacon of knowledge and community, now stood as a monument to mystery and tragedy. As the hours ticked by, the building seemed to come alive. The creaking of old wood and the flickering of shadows created an atmosphere thick with tension and anticipation. Then, just as he was beginning to think the night would pass uneventfully, he heard it, a whisper. Soft and indistinct, it echoed through the stacks, sending a chill down his spine. It was almost as if someone, or something, was calling his name. Heart pounding, Thomas followed the sound, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The whispers led him to a section of the library that had been untouched since the fire. Here the air felt different, charged with an energy he couldn't quite explain. As he examined the walls, he noticed something odd, a faint outline that suggested a hidden compartment. With careful hands, he pried it open, revealing an old, dust-covered journal. The journal belonged to Eleanor Whitmore. As Thomas flipped through its pages, he discovered entries that painted a vivid picture of Eleanor's life and the challenges she faced. She wrote of her fears and suspicions, of political tensions that simmered beneath the town's surface. There were hints of threats from powerful figures, suggestions that her death might not have been an accident after all. Thomas felt a rush of adrenaline. This journal was a treasure trove of clues, each entry a piece of the puzzle he was trying to solve. It was as if Eleanor herself was reaching out from beyond the grave, urging him to uncover the truth. As he read, he could but recall the seance held earlier, where townsfolk had attempted to communicate with Eleanor's spirit. At the time, he'd dismissed it as nonsense, but now he wasn't so sure. The phantom sightings, the whispers, the journal, all seemed to suggest that Eleanor's spirit was indeed trying to communicate. He considered the possibility that these sightings were a manifestation of the town's collective guilt and secrets. The library wasn't just a physical space. It was a repository of the town's hidden histories and unresolved conflicts. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that this was as much a psychological mystery as it was a physical one. Thomas's skepticism was being challenged at every turn. He was forced to confront his own beliefs about the supernatural and the limits of rational inquiry. Could it be that there was more to this world than met the eye? That night, as he sat in the library's ruins, he felt a connection to Eleanor, a shared determination to see the truth revealed. The journal entries provided him with new insights into Eleanor's life. She had been a woman of conviction, unafraid to stand up for what she believed in. Her plans to modernize the library had ruffled feathers, particularly those of Mayor Harold Jenkins. There were entries about heated arguments and veiled threats, all of which painted a picture of a woman caught in a dangerous game of politics. One entry, in particular, caught Thomas's attention. It mentioned a train ticket, suggesting a planned escape or meeting. This was the very ticket he'd found in the ashes, a clue that could potentially unravel the entire mystery. The implications were staggering. If Eleanor had been planning to leave, what had stopped her, and more importantly, who had wanted her silenced? The subchapter reached its climax as Thomas, now more determined than ever, resolved to follow the trail of clues left by Eleanor's journal. He knew he was on the brink of a breakthrough, that the answers he sought were within reach. But as he packed up his things and prepared to leave the library, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As he glanced back at the ruins, he saw a shadow move across the walls, a fleeting glimpse of something, or someone, lurking in the darkness. It was a reminder that the mystery was far from over, that the library held more secrets than he could have ever imagined. The subchapter concluded with a cliffhanger, leaving readers eagerly anticipating what would come next. Thomas's journey was only just beginning, and the road ahead promised to be fraught with danger and intrigue. But armed with Eleanor's journal and his own unwavering determination, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Phantom Sightings was a turning point in the narrative, bridging the tangible and intangible elements of the story. It deepened the reader's engagement by adding complexity to the plot and character development, making the mystery of the Carnegie Library even more compelling. As the chapter drew to a close, readers were left with a sense of anticipation, eager to see how Thomas's investigation would unfold. Thomas Granger stood amidst the charred remains of the Carnegie Library, the acrid scent of smoke still clinging to the air. His eyes, sharp and inquisitive, scanned the debris with the precision of a jeweler examining a rare gem. It was here, among the ashes of history, that he spotted it, a partially burned train ticket. The edges were singed, but the date was clear, the day before the fire. This small piece of paper was more than just a remnant. It was a thread in the tangled web of mystery that enveloped the town. As Thomas picked up the ticket, he felt a familiar thrill. This was the kind of clue that could unravel secrets, the kind that could lead him down paths not yet tread. It hinted at a clandestine meeting or perhaps an escape plan, raising questions about Eleanor Whitmore, the librarian whose life had ended so tragically in the flames. Who was she meeting? Why was this ticket here, among the ruins of her life's work? Determined to follow this lead, Thomas made his way to the local train station. The station was a hive of activity, with travelers bustling about, porters shouting, and the constant hiss of steam engines punctuating the air. It was a place where stories began and ended, where secrets were whispered and deals were struck. Thomas approached the station master, Mr. Finnegan, a man known for his extensive knowledge of the town's comings and goings. With a casual air, Thomas struck up a conversation, weaving his questions seamlessly into the flow of their chat. Mr. Finnegan, ever the gossip, was more than willing to share what he knew. "Ah, Eleanor," Mr. Finnegan said, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "She was here, all right. Saw her speaking with a gentleman I didn't recognize. Odd fellow, kept to himself mostly. This was just a day or two before the fire." Thomas's mind raced. Eleanor had been seen with a mysterious man. Could this be connected to the train ticket? Was this man involved in the events leading up to the fire? The implications were unsettling, and Thomas felt the weight of the ticket in his pocket grow heavier. As he left the station, Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that the town's political tensions were somehow tied to his investigation. Mayor Harold Jenkins, with his public disputes with Eleanor, and Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian with a penchant for secrets, both loomed large in his mind. The train ticket was a bridge, connecting these disparate elements, hinting at a conspiracy that ran deeper than a simple vendetta. Back in his modest office, Thomas spread out the clues he had gathered so far. The burned book with its hidden message, the lipstick-stained cigarette, and now the train ticket. Each piece was a part of the puzzle, but how did they fit together? He knew he had to reconsider everything he thought he knew about Eleanor. Her connections, her plans, even her enemies, all were now suspect. Thomas's introspection was interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Sarah, Eleanor's assistant, her face a mix of fear and determination. She had heard about Thomas's inquiries at the station and had come to share what she knew. Eleanor was planning something big, Sarah confessed. She wanted to modernize the library, bring in new ideas. Not everyone was happy about that, especially those who preferred things as they were. Thomas nodded, his mind piecing together the implications. Eleanor's vision for the library could have threatened the status quo, making her a target for those with vested interests. But who would go so far as to kill for it? The political undercurrents in the town were becoming increasingly turbulent. Mayor Jenkins, with his shaky alibi and political ambitions, was growing more defensive. His desperation to maintain control was palpable, and it only added to Thomas's suspicions. Dr. Carter, with his vast knowledge of the town's history, was both a resource and a potential threat. His involvement in the town's affairs was murky at best. The train ticket, Thomas realized, was more than just a clue. It was a symbol of the broader conspiracy at play, one that involved power, influence, and perhaps even betrayal. As he pondered these connections, he felt a renewed sense of urgency. The stakes were higher than he had anticipated, and the truth was more elusive than ever. Thomas's journey through the labyrinth of secrets was far from over. The train ticket had opened up new avenues for investigation, and he was determined to follow them to their conclusion. As he prepared to delve deeper into the mystery, he couldn't help but wonder, what would he find at the end of this twisted path? And more importantly, who would he become by the time he reached it? With these thoughts weighing on his mind, Thomas left his office, the train ticket a constant reminder of the secrets yet to be uncovered. The town, with its shadows and whispers, awaited his next move. The mystery was far from solved, but Thomas knew one thing for certain: he wouldn't rest until he had uncovered the truth. Chapter 5. The Ghost of Eleanor. The possibility of Eleanor's ghost haunting the library had the town buzzing with both fear and fascination. Naturally, Thomas, ever the skeptic yet open-minded investigator, couldn't resist exploring this supernatural avenue. To put it in perspective, imagine a town where whispers in the wind are taken as seriously as a mayoral decree. That's where Thomas found himself. With a mix of curiosity and a hint of disbelief, Thomas organized a seance. Picture a dimly lit room, candles flickering like nervous fireflies, and the air thick with anticipation. As the seance unfolded, the medium's voice wavered, revealing snippets of Eleanor's past, her dreams, her struggles, and intriguingly, her potential enemies. But here's the twist. During this eerie gathering, Thomas stumbled upon a time-stamped letter hidden in Eleanor's desk. This wasn't just any letter. It was a window into her final days, offering insights that were both illuminating and chilling. Worth noting is how this letter painted a picture of Eleanor as a woman caught in a web of secrets and lies. More importantly, the letter hinted at a betrayal that seemed to reach beyond the grave. It was a clue that challenged Thomas to balance the supernatural with the rational. Was Eleanor's ghost truly haunting the library, or was it simply the echoes of her unfinished business? As the chapter closes, Thomas is left pondering the implications of these revelations. What would you do next? Would you chase the ghostly whispers, or dig deeper into the tangible clues left behind? The mystery deepens, inviting readers to question everything they thought they knew. Thomas Granger stood at the entrance of the library, the charred remains whispering tales of ruin and mystery. The air was thick with anticipation, a palpable tension that electrified the crowd gathered for the evening's seance. Here, in this small Midwest town in 1924, the supernatural had become the talk of the town, sparked by whispers of Eleanor Whitmore's ghost haunting the ruins of the Carnegie Library. Thomas, ever the skeptic, was not one to be swayed by tales of the otherworldly. Yet he found himself drawn into this peculiar affair, his logical mind intrigued by the challenge it presented. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the faces of the onlookers, Thomas surveyed the scene. The library, once a beacon of knowledge, now stood as a skeleton of its former self. Its walls, blackened by the flames, seemed to hold secrets within their scorched confines. The townsfolk, a mix of skeptics and believers, murmured among themselves, their breath visible in the crisp evening air. Madame Seraphina, the town's resident medium, arrived with an air of theatrical mystery. Draped in flowing robes and adorned with trinkets that jingled softly with each step, she commanded attention. Her reputation for connecting with the other side preceded her, and her presence added an element of drama to the proceedings. As she began to prepare for the seance, Thomas noted the mix of awe and suspicion in the crowd's eyes. It was clear that Madame Seraphina was both revered and doubted in equal measure. The seance commenced with the lighting of candles, their flickering flames casting a warm glow that seemed to ward off the encroaching darkness. The crowd fell silent, the only sound being the soft rustle of the wind through the skeletal remains of the library. Thomas positioned himself at the edge of the gathering, his eyes keenly observing the reactions of those around him. He was particularly interested in the key suspects, Mayor Harold Jenkins, Sarah the assistant librarian, and Dr. William Carter, whose expressions might betray hidden truths. Madame Seraphina's voice, tinged with an otherworldly timbre, filled the night air as she claimed to channel Eleanor's spirit. She spoke of unfinished business and secrets buried within the library's walls. Her words, though ethereal, carried weight, and Thomas couldn't help but wonder if there was more to Eleanor's death than met the eye. The atmosphere grew tense, the crowd hanging on every word, when suddenly a gust of wind extinguished the candles, plunging the scene into darkness. In the ensuing chaos, Thomas sensed an opportunity. Guided by a hunch that the seance's theatrics might reveal something tangible, he discreetly made his way to Eleanor's desk. His intuition paid off when he discovered a time-stamped letter yellowed with age, but remarkably intact. The letter addressed to Eleanor hinted at a clandestine meeting and a potential betrayal. This discovery shifted the narrative, offering a new perspective on Eleanor's final days and the motives of those around her. The seance concluded with mixed reactions. Some attendees were convinced of Eleanor's spectral presence, while others dismissed the event as nothing more than a charade. Thomas, however, left with more than he bargained for. The experience, while challenging his rational beliefs, provided a crucial piece of the puzzle, pushing him closer to the truth. As he walked away from the ruins, the letter clutched in his hand, he pondered the implications of his discovery. Back at his lodgings, Thomas carefully examined the letter under the dim glow of a gas lamp. The words, though faded, were legible enough to piece together a narrative. It spoke of a meeting set to take place the night of the fire, a meeting that Eleanor was apparently apprehensive about. The sender's identity was obscured by time and the elements, but the tone suggested a familiarity that piqued Thomas's curiosity. The discovery of the letter prompted Thomas to revisit the suspects with renewed vigor. Mayor Jenkins, with his political ambitions and pub feud with Eleanor, remained a person of interest. His alibi for the night of the fire was shaky at best, and Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that the mayor's ambitions might have driven him to desperate measures. Then there was Sarah, the assistant librarian, whose ambitions to modernize the library clashed with Eleanor's traditional views. Her nervous demeanor during the seance hadn't gone unnoticed by Thomas. Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian, was another intriguing figure. His connection to Eleanor was less obvious, but his knowledge of the library's history and its secrets made him a person of interest. Thomas recalled the phantom sighting reported in the library, a detail that seemed to tie back to the historian's penchant for the supernatural. Could Dr. Carter's fascination with the ethereal have led him down a darker path? As Thomas pieced together the clues, he found himself grappling with his own beliefs. The possibility that the supernatural held answers to his investigation was both unsettling and intriguing. He had always prided himself on his logical mind, yet the events of the evening had left him questioning the boundaries of reality. The letter, the seance, the ghostly sightings, each element added a layer of complexity to the case that he couldn't ignore. Reflecting on the evening's events, Thomas realized that the truth might indeed lie beyond the tangible world he knew. The emotional journey he found himself on was one of transformation, challenging his convictions and forcing him to consider possibilities he had once dismissed. The town's obsession with the supernatural, while seemingly far-fetched, had opened a new avenue of investigation that he couldn't afford to overlook. As the night wore on, Thomas resolved to continue his pursuit of the truth. The letter had provided a crucial lead, but there was still much to uncover. He knew that the answers he sought lay within the intricate web of secrets surrounding Eleanor's death, and he was determined to unravel them. The library, with its burned books and phantom sightings, held the key to the mystery, and Thomas was ready to confront whatever lay within its shadowy depths. With renewed determination, Thomas prepared for the next phase of his investigation. The seance had challenged his beliefs, but it had also equipped him with new tools for the task ahead. As he drifted off to sleep, his mind buzzed with possibilities, each one bringing him closer to the resolution he so desperately sought. The supernatural, it seemed, was not just a flight of fancy, but a vital piece of the puzzle, one that might just lead him to the truth. Thomas Granger stood in the dimly lit library, the air still heavy with the lingering tension of the recently concluded seance. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across the room, creating an atmosphere ripe with mystery and anticipation. The townsfolk, abuzz with whispers and speculation, slowly began to disperse, leaving Thomas alone with his thoughts and the task at hand. Despite the evening's ghostly undertones, Thomas remained grounded in his skepticism. He was an insurance adjuster by trade, not given to flights of fancy or the supernatural. Yet he was also a man who understood the value of leaving no stone unturned. His logical mind was his compass, guiding him through the murky waters of Eleanor Whitmore's untimely death. As the last of the curious onlookers exited the library, Thomas turned his attention to Eleanor's desk. It was a sturdy oak piece, its surface adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to whisper secrets of their own. Thomas had overlooked this area in his initial investigation, but something about it now called to him, urging him to dig deeper. With a methodical precision born from years of experience, Thomas began to sift through the desk's contents. Papers, ink bottles, and various trinkets cluttered the drawers, each item a potential clue waiting to be uncovered. His fingers brushed against the smooth wood, searching for anything out of place. Then his hand found it, a false bottom in one of the drawers. His heart quickened as he carefully pried it open, revealing a hidden compartment. Nestled inside was a letter, yellowed with age and bearing a timestamp from the day before the library fire. This was no ordinary piece of correspondence. It was a relic from the past, a direct link to Eleanor herself. Thomas unfolded the brittle paper with care, his eyes scanning the elegant script that filled its pages. Eleanor's words leapt out at him, each sentence a window into her fears and suspicions. She wrote of threats to the library, of her growing unease, and of a meeting she had planned with an unnamed individual. Someone she believed could help her protect the library from an impending danger. The discovery of this letter was a turning point for Thomas. It was as if Eleanor had reached out from beyond the grave, providing him with the key to unraveling the mystery of her death. The letter suggested that her demise was no mere accident, but rather the result of a conspiracy that reached beyond the library's walls and into the heart of the town's political landscape. Emotionally, Thomas found himself caught in a whirlwind. On one hand, the letter was a breakthrough, a tangible clue that could guide him closer to the truth. On the other, it was a burden, a reminder of the stakes involved and the lives that had been shattered. He felt the weight of Eleanor's words pressing down on him, urging him to dig deeper, to uncover the truth at any cost. As he stood there, the letter clutched in his hand, Thomas knew that he had crossed a threshold. His investigation had taken on a new urgency, a new sense of purpose. He was no longer just an insurance adjuster. He was a detective, driven by the need to bring justice to Eleanor and closure to her story. With renewed determination, Thomas resolved to confront the key suspects once more. Armed with the knowledge that Eleanor's death was no accident, he was prepared to challenge their alibis, to peel back the layers of deceit that shrouded the truth. The letter was his weapon, a voice from the past that demanded to be heard. As Thomas left the library that night, the moon casting its pale light over the town, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the brink of something monumental. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fall into place, each clue leading him closer to the heart of the mystery. This subchapter serves as a critical bridge between the supernatural elements introduced earlier and the hard evidence that Thomas needs to solve the case. It challenges readers to consider the interplay between myth and reality, setting the stage for the dramatic revelations to come. In the days that followed, Thomas immersed himself in the investigation, poring over every detail, every nuance of the letter. He knew that the answers lay within its pages, waiting to be uncovered. The stakes were high, and the path ahead was fraught with danger, but Thomas was undeterred. The letter had opened up new avenues of inquiry, pointing to a conspiracy that reached beyond the library and into the town's political landscape. It was a revelation that shook the very foundations of the community, casting doubt on the motives and actions of those in power. Thomas was no stranger to the complexities of human nature, to the web of alliances and betrayals that often lay beneath the surface. He understood that the truth was rarely black and white, that it often resided in the gray areas where motives blurred and loyalties shifted. With this understanding, Thomas approached his investigation with a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to uncover the truth, to bring justice to Eleanor, and to ensure that her story was not forgotten. The letter was his guide, a beacon that illuminated the path ahead. As he delved deeper into the mystery, Thomas found himself drawn into a world of intrigue and deception. The suspects he encountered were not what they seemed, each harboring secrets and motives that added layers of complexity to the case. Mayor Harold Jenkins, with his political ambitions and shaky alibi, was a man under pressure. His public feud with Eleanor had been well documented, But Thomas sensed that there was more to the story, that the mayor's actions were driven by something deeper. Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian, had her own reasons for wanting to see Eleanor removed from the picture. Her plans to modernize the library clashed with Eleanor's vision, creating a rift that threatened to consume them both. And then there was Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian whose knowledge of the library's past was unparalleled. His connection to Eleanor was shrouded in mystery, leaving Thomas to wonder what role he played in the unfolding drama. Each suspect presented a piece of the puzzle, a clue that could lead Thomas closer to the truth. But as he pieced together their stories, he realized that the answers he sought were not just about Eleanor's death, but about the town itself and the secrets it harbored. In the end, the discovery of the time-stamped letter was more than just a breakthrough. It was a catalyst for change. It forced Thomas to confront the reality of the situation, to challenge his own beliefs, and to push beyond the boundaries of his comfort zone. The letter was a testament to Eleanor's courage, her determination to protect what she held dear. It was a reminder that even in death, her voice could not be silenced, that her story would continue to resonate long after the flames had died down. As Thomas prepared to face the challenges ahead, he knew that he was not alone. Eleanor's spirit was with him, guiding him, urging him to dig deeper and to uncover the truth. The journey was far from over, but with the letter in hand, Thomas felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. This pivotal subchapter not only advances the plot, but also deepens the emotional stakes for Thomas. It challenges readers to consider the complexities of truth and justice, inviting them to join Thomas on his quest for answers. With each clue, each revelation, the mystery of Eleanor's death becomes more intricate, setting the stage for the dramatic events to come. Chapter 6, the final chapter. The library's grand reading room felt like a stage set for a revelation. Thomas stood at its center, surrounded by the remnants of a once vibrant community hub. He'd spent weeks piecing together the puzzle of Eleanor's death, and now the final act was upon him. It was never about the library, Thomas began, his voice steady. It was about control, about ambition. He looked directly at Mayor Jenkins, whose face was a mask of defiance. Eleanor discovered your plans to sell the library's land to the highest bidder. She threatened to expose you, didn't she? Jenkins shifted uncomfortably, the weight of the accusation heavy in the air. Thomas continued. The charred ledger, the telegram coded with your initials, and the train ticket, it all points to you. You planned to leave town once the deal was done, but Eleanor stood in your way. The room was silent, save for the ticking of the old grandfather clock, a relic of a time when secrets were harder to keep. And Sarah, Thomas turned to the assistant librarian, your lipstick on the cigarette found in her office. You were the unwitting accomplice, weren't you? Tricked into thinking you were helping Eleanor modernize the library. Sarah's eyes widened, realization dawning on her. As the truth settled over the room, it was clear that Eleanor's death was a consequence of greed and manipulation. The town, now forced to confront its own shadows, began to see the library not just as a building, but as a symbol of their collective conscience. In the end, what mattered most was facing the truth and finding a way forward. The quiet solitude of Thomas Granger's study was a stark contrast to the chaos that had engulfed the Carnegie Library just days before. As the dim light from a single desk lamp cast long shadows, Thomas sat surrounded by the remnants of a mystery that seemed as tangled as the smoke that had once filled the air. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, each tick of the old grandfather clock echoing like a countdown to revelation. On the table before him lay the clues: a charred ledger, a melted pocket watch, a lipstick-stained cigarette, a cryptic telegram, and a time-stamped letter. Each item had its own story, its own whisper of the past. Thomas, ever the meticulous insurance adjuster, began to piece them together, his mind a flurry of connections and possibilities. The charred ledger was the first piece of the puzzle. Its pages, though blackened, still held enough ink to reveal a pattern of transactions that were anything but ordinary. Eleanor Whitmore, the late librarian, had been tracking something that had clearly put her in danger. Thomas noted the entries, each one a breadcrumb, leading him deeper into the heart of the mystery. Next, the melted pocket watch. It was an old piece, one that had likely been in Eleanor's family for generations. But what caught Thomas's attention was not its age, but the cryptic note found alongside it. At first, the note had seemed like nothing more than gibberish, a jumble of letters and numbers. But as Thomas compared it to the mysterious code from the telegram, a pattern began to emerge. The telegram was a communication between Eleanor and an unknown accomplice, a plan orchestrated with precision, yet cloaked in secrecy. The lipstick-stained cigarette was an enigma of its own. Who had left it behind, and why? In a town where everyone knew everyone else's business, secrets were hard to keep. Thomas suspected it belonged to Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian whose loyalty to Eleanor seemed unwavering. But was it? The cigarette hinted at clandestine meetings, at whispered conversations held in the shadows of the library's grand halls. Then there was the telegram, its code now partially deciphered. It spoke of a meeting, a transaction that was never meant to see the light of day. Eleanor had been on the brink of something significant, something that threatened to upend the power dynamics of the town. And at the center of this web was Mayor Harold Jenkins, a man whose ambitions were as towering as his political influence. Finally, the time-stamped letter. Found in Eleanor's desk, it was the final piece of the puzzle, the key to unlocking the conspiracy that had led to her death. The letter revealed a hidden alliance between Jenkins and Dr. William Carter, a reclusive historian with his own reasons for wanting Eleanor out of the picture. Together, they had plotted to sabotage her modernization efforts that threatened to shift the balance of power in their carefully controlled world. As the pieces fell into place, Thomas felt a surge of determination. The truth was within his grasp, and he knew what he had to do. The following morning, he arranged a meeting at the library's charred remains, a symbolic gesture to bring the truth to light amidst the ashes. The suspects arrived, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Mayor Jenkins, with his polished demeanor, seemed unfazed, yet a flicker of uncertainty danced in his eyes. Sarah, the assistant librarian, appeared nervous, her gaze darting between the ruins and Thomas. Dr. Carter, ever the stoic, watched with a detached interest, as if the proceedings were nothing more than an academic exercise. Thomas, maintaining his conversational yet authoritative tone, laid out the evidence. He spoke of the ledger, the transactions that pointed to a financial motive. He described the telegram and the note, their codes now deciphered, revealing a plot that was both ambitious and dangerous. The cigarette, the letter, each piece connected to form a tapestry of deceit and betrayal. The tension escalated as Thomas revealed the motive behind Eleanor's murder. The library, once a beacon of knowledge and progress, was set to undergo a transformation that threatened the status quo. Jenkins, with his political ambitions, stood to lose the most. As Thomas unveiled this motive, Jenkins's facade crumbled, his protests growing weaker under the weight of evidence. The emotional journey reached its crescendo when Thomas presented the final piece of the puzzle, the time-stamped letter. It exposed the alliance between Jenkins and Dr. Carter, their plan to sabotage Eleanor's efforts by any means necessary, including her murder. Sarah gasped in disbelief, her loyalty to Eleanor betrayed by those she trusted. As the suspects were taken away, Thomas stood amidst the ruins, contemplating the cost of ambition and deceit. The town, now forced to confront its dark secrets, began a path towards healing and renewal. This chapter not only unraveled the mystery, but also set the stage for the town's redemption, capturing the essence of community resilience. In this moment of reflection, Thomas realized that the library, though scarred, would rise from the ashes. It would become a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of truth and the resilience of a community willing to rebuild. The mystery may have been solved, but the story was far from over. The town and Thomas had much to learn and much to rebuild. As he walked away from the charred remains, Thomas felt a sense of peace. The library's story, Eleanor's story, would continue, woven into the fabric of the town's history. And as for him, well, there were always more mysteries to solve, more stories to uncover. For now, though, he would savor this victory, knowing that he had brought justice to a woman who had dared to dream of a better future. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the remnants of the Carnegie Library, Thomas Granger stood at the center of what once was the grand reading room. The air was thick with anticipation, mingling with the lingering scent of smoke that clung to the charred bookshelves. This was it, the moment when truth would finally step out from the shadows. The townsfolk, drawn by curiosity and a thirst for justice, gathered around, their faces a mix of skepticism and hope. Thomas, a man of quiet determination and keen intellect, had spent weeks navigating the labyrinth of clues hidden in the ashes of the library. Now he was ready to unveil the truth. But first, he had to confront his own swirling emotions, doubt, determination, and the weight of justice pressing heavily on his shoulders. It was a feeling akin to standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that a single step would change everything. The library's reading room, once a sanctuary of knowledge and reflection, now served as a stark metaphor for the town's fractured facade. The singed walls whispered secrets, and the broken windows offered a chilling view of the town's darkened streets. In this haunting setting, Thomas had called together the key suspects: Mayor Harold Jenkins, Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian, and Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian. Each of them had something to hide, and each was about to be exposed. With a conversational tone that belied the gravity of the moment, Thomas began to weave a narrative of deceit and ambition, a story that had led to the tragic death of Eleanor Whitmore. He recounted the small but telling clues: the charred ledger that hinted at financial discrepancies, the lipstick-stained cigarette that suggested a clandestine meeting, and the telegram with its mysterious code that pointed to a conspiracy. Each piece of evidence fit into the puzzle with an inevitability that left the suspects visibly unnerved. The tension in the room was palpable as Thomas revealed the true motive behind the crime. Eleanor's plans to modernize the library had threatened the entrenched power structures in the town, igniting a desperate bid to silence her forever. The revelation was met with gasps as Thomas exposed the culprit, whose identity shattered the town's illusion of unity. The confrontation reached its peak when Thomas presented the final, irrefutable evidence: a time-stamped letter, a damning testament to the culprit's guilt. Emotions ran high as the town grappled with the fallout. The confrontation was not just a moment of personal triumph for Thomas, but a turning point for the community. It forced them to confront their own complicity in the events that led to Eleanor's demise. As the reality of the situation sank in, the townsfolk began to murmur among themselves, their voices a mix of disbelief and acceptance. Thomas stood silently, allowing the weight of his words to settle over the crowd. He knew that this was more than just the resolution of a mystery. It was a moment of catharsis and redemption. The characters in this drama were forced to reckon with their past actions and the impact they had on their community. It was a powerful reflection on the consequences of ambition and the cost of truth. As the crowd began to disperse, Thomas lingered in the shadows of the library, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He thought about Eleanor, a woman of vision and courage, whose life had been cut short by the very forces she sought to change. Her death had been a catalyst for transformation, a painful yet necessary step towards the town's healing and renewal. The library, once a symbol of knowledge and progress, was now a testament to the town's resilience. Plans for its reconstruction were already underway, a promise of restoration and hope. The townsfolk, inspired by Eleanor's legacy, were determined to rebuild, to create a space that honored her memory and served as a beacon of learning for future generations. As Thomas turned to leave, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had fulfilled his duty, not just as an investigator, but as a guardian of truth. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but it was a path worth taking. The town had been given a second chance, and with it came the opportunity to forge a new future, one built on honesty, integrity, and a shared commitment to the common good. This dramatic confrontation had been a crucible, a test of character and resolve. It had revealed the best and worst of human nature, and in doing so, had paved the way for a brighter tomorrow. As Thomas walked away from the library, he carried with him the lessons learned and the hope that, more often than not, truth would prevail. The chapter concluded, but the story was far from over. The town's journey towards healing and renewal had just begun. and Thomas, ever the observer, would be there to witness it. He knew that the library's reconstruction would be a symbol of the community's resilience, a testament to their ability to rise from the ashes and build something new. And in that promise of restoration and hope, Thomas found his own sense of closure, ready to face whatever mysteries the future might hold. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the last of its golden glow over the charred remains of the Carnegie Library, Thomas Granger stood amidst the ruins, a solitary figure against the backdrop of twilight. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the very atmosphere knew that the truth, long buried beneath layers of ash and deceit, was about to be unearthed. Scene 1. The gathering storm. Thomas had spent countless hours piecing together the fragmented puzzle of that fateful night. The library, once a beacon of knowledge and community, now stood as a haunting reminder of tragedy. He walked among the debris, each step echoing the weight of his discoveries. The charred ledger, the melted pocket watch, the cryptic note, all clues that had led him to this moment of reckoning. Reflecting on his journey, Thomas considered each suspect, each motive, and each seemingly inconsequential detail that had brought him closer to the truth. The atmosphere was tense, charged with the electricity of impending revelation. It was as if the shadows themselves were whispering secrets, urging him to press forward. Scene 2. The revelation. As the clock struck 7, the townsfolk gathered in the town hall, their faces a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Thomas stood before them, his demeanor calm yet commanding. He had invited all the key players, the mayor, the assistant librarian, the reclusive historian, each with their own secrets and stakes in the library's fate. "Thank you all for coming," Thomas began, his voice steady. "Tonight, we uncover the truth behind the fire that took Miss Eleanor Whitmore from us and shattered our community." He laid out the evidence methodically, starting with the charred ledger that hinted at financial discrepancies in the library's accounts. The cryptic note, once dismissed as a red herring, now revealed its significance in Eleanor's plans to modernize the library, plans that had met with fierce resistance from certain quarters. Scene 3. The culprit unmasked. The tension in the room was palpable as Thomas continued. He spoke of the lipstick-stained cigarette, a seemingly innocuous detail that had pointed towards a clandestine meeting. The telegram with its mysterious code had been cracked, revealing a network of communication that linked back to the library's archives. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Thomas produced the time-stamped letter from Eleanor's desk, the final piece of the puzzle. "This letter," he said, holding it up for all to see, "implicates Dr. William Carter in orchestrating the fire." Gasps echoed through the hall. Dr. Carter, the reclusive historian, had been driven by a desperate need to protect his secrets that Eleanor's modernization plans threatened to expose. In a bid to maintain control over the library's historical archives, he had set in motion the events that led to the fire. Scene 4. The town's reckoning. The revelation sent shock waves through the crowd. Faces turned to Dr. Carter, who sat pale and silent, his carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of truth. Thomas's voice remained calm as he explained how the train ticket found in the ashes was intended for Carter's escape, a plan thwarted by his own hubris. The townspeople were forced to confront their own complicity, their silence and complacency having allowed such ambition and deceit to flourish unchecked. It was a moment of collective introspection, a reckoning with the past that would define their future. Scene 5. Emotional resolution. In the aftermath, as the town began to process the revelations, Thomas found a quiet corner to reflect. The case had been more than a mystery. It had been a journey of personal growth and understanding. He realized the complexity of human motives, the fragile nature of truth, and the power of community in healing and renewal. The townspeople, now united in their understanding, began to discuss plans for the library's restoration. It would be a symbol of hope, a testament to their resilience and commitment to preserving their shared history while embracing the future. Scene 6. Transition to reflection. As the evening drew to a close, Thomas took pen to paper, writing a letter to a friend about the case and the lessons learned. His words flowed easily, a cathartic release of thoughts and emotions that had been building throughout the investigation. The letter served as a bridge to the next chapter, a moment of reflection that set the stage for final revelations and the town's journey towards healing. It was a fitting conclusion to a story that had begun with tragedy and ended with hope. As Thomas sealed the envelope, he glanced one last time at the town hall, now empty save for the echoes of the evening's events. He felt a sense of closure, knowing that the truth had been revealed and justice, in its own way, had been served. The library, once a place of mystery and shadows, would soon be reborn, a beacon of light and knowledge for generations to come. And as the first stars appeared in the night sky, Thomas Granger knew that his work here was done. But the story of the Carnegie Library would live on, a testament to the enduring power of truth and community. In the quiet aftermath of the investigation, Thomas Granger found himself standing alone in the charred remains of the Carnegie Library. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and memories, and the once vibrant hub of knowledge now lay in ruins. Yet, amidst the ashes, there was a sense of resolution, a feeling that the truth had finally been unearthed. It was time for reflection. Resolution. The case had been a labyrinth of secrets and lies, each twist leading Thomas deeper into the heart of the town's hidden past. As he pieced together the final clues, the picture became clear. The death of Miss Eleanor Whitmore was not merely an accident, but the culmination of a tangled web of motives and opportunities. Imagine you're piecing together a jigsaw puzzle, each piece fitting snugly into place to reveal a complete picture. That's how it felt for Thomas as he connected the dots. The charred ledger revealing financial discrepancies, the melted pocket watch indicating a struggle, and the cryptic note hinting at a clandestine meeting. Each clue was a stroke of color on the canvas of truth. The final confrontation had been dramatic, the revelation of the true culprit, both shocking and inevitable. It was a testament to the power of deduction and the importance of looking beyond the obvious. As Thomas stood there, he couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. The town could finally move forward, free from the shadows of deceit. Reflection. Thomas had always been a man of logic and reason, but this case had taught him the value of intuition and empathy. As he reflected on the journey, he realized that solving a mystery was not just about uncovering facts, but understanding the human heart. It was about seeing beyond the surface, recognizing the fears and desires that drive people to act. He thought back to the people he had met along the way. Mayor Harold Jenkins, with his political ambitions and shaky alibi. Sarah, the assistant librarian, whose dreams of modernization clashed with tradition. Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian, whose knowledge of the past held the key to the present. Each of them had played a part in the drama, their lives intertwined with Eleanor's in ways they might never fully understand. Thomas couldn't help but smile as he remembered the phantom sightings and the seance that had seemed so out of place in the logical world he inhabited. Yet, they had served a purpose, revealing more about Eleanor's past and the enemies she had made along the way. It was a reminder that sometimes the most improbable events hold the greatest truths, the power of knowledge and community. The restoration of the library was already underway, a symbol of hope and renewal for the town. It was a testament to the power of knowledge and the resilience of community. As the townspeople came together to rebuild, Thomas saw the beginnings of a new chapter, one where the lessons of the past would guide them toward a brighter future. He knew that the library would once again become a beacon of learning and growth, a place where ideas could flourish and dreams could take root. It was a fitting tribute to Eleanor, whose passion for books and education had been the driving force behind her life. In death, she had left a legacy that would endure, her story woven into the fabric of the town she loved. Final thoughts. As Thomas prepared to leave the library, he paused for a moment, taking in the scene one last time. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the ruins, and he felt a sense of peace. The case had changed him, deepening his understanding of the world and his place in it. He had learned that truth, like a flame, could illuminate even the darkest corners, casting light on the shadows of the past. With a final nod to the library and its secrets, Thomas turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the quiet evening air. The mystery had been solved, but the journey was far from over. There were always more puzzles to unravel, more stories to uncover. And as long as there were questions to be answered, Thomas Granger would be there, ready to seek out the truth with a keen mind and an open heart. Interactive reflection. Imagine you're standing in Thomas's shoes, having just solved a complex mystery. What would you do next? Would you delve into another case, eager for the thrill of the chase? Or would you take a moment to reflect, considering the lessons learned and the people whose lives you've touched? Perhaps you'd write down your thoughts, capturing the essence of the journey in words. Whatever path you choose, remember that every ending is a new beginning, a chance to grow and explore the endless possibilities that lie ahead. Chapter 7, Reflections and Revelations. Thomas stood at the library's entrance, watching the townsfolk bustle about, their sleeves rolled up, bricks and beams in hand. The air was thick with the scent of sawdust and fresh paint, a testament to the community's resilience. As he reflected on the events that had unfolded, he couldn't help but feel a sense of growth within himself, much like the library rising from its ashes. Throughout the investigation, Thomas had grappled with shadows of doubt, both about the case and his capabilities. Yet each clue he uncovered was like a piece of a puzzle, revealing not just the truth about Eleanor's tragic end, but also insights into his own strengths and weaknesses. It was as if the library, with its charred books and whispered secrets, had been a mirror reflecting his journey. The restoration of the library wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was a symbol of hope and renewal for the town. People were coming together, not just to rebuild a structure, but to restore a beacon of knowledge and history. It was a powerful reminder of the importance of preserving the past to enlighten the future. Thomas pondered the power of knowledge, how it had guided him through the maze of lies and half-truths. The library, once just a repository of books, had become a testament to the enduring strength of community and the relentless pursuit of truth. As he watched the final touches being added to the building, he realized that the true legacy of the library was not in its walls, but in the spirit of the people who cherished it. Opening scene. Quiet contemplation. Thomas Granger sat amidst the skeletal remains of the once grand Carnegie Library, now a cacophony of construction. The air was thick with the sound of hammers and saws, a stark contrast to the quiet contemplation etched across his face. In his hand, he held a melted pocket watch, its twisted form a poignant reminder of time lost and time gained. The watch was more than a mere object. It was a symbol of his journey, a journey that had brought him to the heart of this small Midwest town in 1924. Thomas had always been a man of precision, a methodical insurance adjuster whose life was ruled by numbers and probabilities. Yet, as he sat there, the watch's warped hands seemed to point towards a new understanding, one that transcended the mere ticking of time. Reflecting on the case, as the noise of reconstruction droned on, Thomas's mind drifted back to the case that had consumed his every thought. He recalled the tension that filled Mayor Jenkins' office, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Jenkins, with his political ambitions and shaky alibi, had been a suspect from the start. Then there was Sarah, the assistant librarian, whose desperation was palpable. Her dreams of modernizing the library had clashed with Eleanor's traditional views, making her a person of interest. Dr. William Carter, the reclusive historian, had been another enigma. His guarded demeanor and obsession with the library's history had raised more questions than answers. Each suspect, with their motives and secrets, had painted a complex picture of human nature. Thomas had learned that truth was not a single thread but a tapestry of intertwined stories, each requiring careful unraveling. Personal growth and realizations, Thomas marveled at his transformation. The investigation had pushed him beyond the boundaries of his profession, forcing him to listen to the whispers of history and the nuances of human emotion. He realized that the library, once just a building to him, was a repository of stories, each one a testament to the lives it touched. His appreciation for the library had deepened, not just as a place of knowledge, but as a symbol of community resilience. It was a place where past and present converged, where the stories of the town's people were preserved and shared. Community and knowledge. Looking around, Thomas saw the townspeople working together, their collective effort a testament to their resilience. The library, once a scene of tragedy, was now a beacon of hope and renewal. It was a reminder that knowledge was a powerful tool, one that could unite and strengthen a community. As he watched the workers, Thomas reflected on the importance of preserving knowledge. The fire had been a tragedy, but it had also sparked a renewed commitment to restoration and growth. The library would rise again, filled with new stories and adventures for future generations. Key revelation: the power of truth. In his reflections, Thomas came to a profound realization. The pursuit of truth was not just about solving mysteries, but about understanding and healing. The library fire, though tragic, had brought the community closer, revealing hidden strengths and forging new bonds. He understood that truth was a powerful force, one that could illuminate the darkest corners of human experience. It was a force that could heal wounds and bring people together, bridging gaps and fostering understanding. Emotional closure. Thomas felt a sense of closure and peace. He had not only solved a mystery, but had also discovered a deeper connection to the town and its people. He understood that every story, like every life, left an imprint on the world. As he sat there, the melted pocket watch in his hand, he felt a sense of belonging. He was no longer just an outsider looking in. He was a part of the town's story, a story that would continue to unfold long after he had left. Transition to restoration. As Thomas rose to leave, he caught a glimpse of a young child peering into the construction site, eyes wide with wonder. This moment, so simple yet profound, symbolized the future and the continuous cycle of learning and discovery. The library would soon be filled with the laughter and curiosity of children, each one eager to explore the world of stories and knowledge. Thomas smiled, knowing that the library's restoration was not just about rebuilding a structure, but about nurturing a community. It was about preserving the past while embracing the future, a future filled with endless possibilities. Bridge to conclusion. With the sun setting behind him, Thomas walked away from the library, his heart light with hope. The visual metaphor of the setting sun and rising hope was a fitting end to his journey, leaving readers with a sense of renewal and the enduring strength of community and truth. As he made his way down the dusty road, Thomas knew that the library would continue to be a beacon of knowledge and community, a place where stories were shared and lives were changed. And in that moment, he realized that his own story was just one of many, each one a thread in the rich tapestry of life. Thomas Granger stood amidst the charred remains of the once grand Carnegie Library, the air still thick with the scent of smoke and ash. It was a peculiar moment, standing there as if at the crossroads of past and future. The library had been the beating heart of the town, and now, as he surveyed the ruins, it was clear that its restoration was not just about bricks and mortar. It was about healing, about piecing together the fragments of a community's spirit that had been shattered by tragedy. The library's restoration was a symphony of sounds and sights. The rhythmic pounding of hammers and the sharp whir of saws filled the air, a testament to the town's determination to rebuild. Every corner was bustling with activity. Men and women, young and old, had come together, each contributing their unique skills. It was as if the entire town had decided that the library's rebirth was a personal mission. This collective effort was more than just physical labor. It was a declaration of resilience, a refusal to be defined by the calamity that had struck them. Thomas, who had gained respect and a certain notoriety in the town for his role in uncovering the truth behind the fire, found himself deeply involved in the restoration project. His meticulous nature, once focused on unraveling the mystery of Eleanor Whitmore's death, was now channeled into ensuring that every detail of the library's rebirth was perfect. He moved through the site with a keen eye, checking plans, measuring progress, and offering a word of encouragement here and there. As Thomas worked, he couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought him here. The case had been a labyrinth of secrets and lies, yet it had also been a journey of personal growth. He had learned that truth and justice were not always straightforward paths, but winding roads that required patience and understanding. The library's restoration was a metaphor for this journey, painful, challenging, yet ultimately rewarding. In the midst of the reconstruction, Thomas encountered Sarah, the ambitious assistant librarian. Her eyes sparkled with determination as she shared her vision for the library's future. "We should honor Eleanor's legacy by modernizing the library," she said, her voice filled with passion. "We need to create a space that not only preserves history, but also embraces progress." Their conversation was a reminder of the library's role as a beacon of knowledge and innovation. Sarah's ideas were bold, yet they resonated with Thomas. The library, he realized, was not just about books and shelves. It was about ideas, about the exchange of knowledge, and the promise of a brighter future. Together, they discussed plans for new sections dedicated to technology and community events, ensuring that the library would continue to serve as a hub of learning and connection. The emotional heart of the restoration came during a community gathering held at the library site. Townsfolk gathered, sharing stories of Eleanor Whitmore, celebrating her life and her contributions. It was a cathartic moment, a chance for the community to mourn collectively and begin the healing process. Laughter and tears mingled as people recounted tales of Eleanor's kindness, her fierce dedication to the library, and her unwavering belief in the power of knowledge. As the library's structure began to take shape, a remarkable discovery was made. In the depths of the ruins, Thomas stumbled upon a hidden alcove. Inside, he found a time capsule that Eleanor had secretly buried. The capsule contained personal mementos and a heartfelt letter from Eleanor herself. In her letter, she expressed her hopes for the future and her belief in the transformative power of knowledge. This discovery was a revelation for Thomas, providing him with a deeper understanding of Eleanor's motivations and reinforcing the central themes of their journey. The unveiling of the restored library was a moment of triumph and renewal. The townspeople gathered for the grand reopening, their faces alight with anticipation and joy. Thomas stood before them, ready to deliver a speech that encapsulated the journey they had all undertaken. He spoke of the library as a symbol of their shared history and the enduring pursuit of truth. His words resonated with the crowd, leaving them with a sense of closure and optimism. "This library," Thomas began, his voice steady and clear, "is more than just a building. It's a testament to our resilience, our unity, and our unwavering commitment to truth and knowledge. We've faced adversity, but together we've emerged stronger. Let this library be a beacon of hope, a place where ideas flourish and dreams take flight." As the applause echoed through the air, Thomas felt a profound sense of satisfaction. The journey had been arduous, filled with twists and turns, but it had also been transformative. The library's restoration was not just about rebuilding a structure. It was about restoring hope, about looking to the future with renewed faith in the power of community and the enduring legacy of knowledge. In the days that followed, Thomas often found himself wandering through the library's halls, marveling at the transformation. The shelves were once again filled with books, each one a testament to the human spirit's unyielding quest for knowledge. The children's section was alive with laughter and curiosity, a testament to the library's role in nurturing young minds. It was a living, breathing entity, a vibrant testament to the town's resilience and determination. Reflecting on the case, Thomas realized that he too had been transformed. The mystery of Eleanor's death had been a catalyst for change, forcing him to confront his own beliefs and biases. He had learned that truth was not always black and white, but a complex tapestry of perspectives and experiences. The library's restoration was a metaphor for this journey, a reminder that healing and growth often come from the most unexpected places. As he stood in the library, surrounded by the whispers of history and the promise of the future, Thomas felt a deep sense of peace. The library was not just a building. It was a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of community, and a reminder that, even in the darkest of times, knowledge and truth would always prevail. Thomas Granger stood amidst the newly restored Carnegie Library, inhaling the scent of fresh paint mingling with the faint aroma of old books. The library had been a charred skeleton, a somber reminder of the tragedy that had befallen the town. Now it gleamed with renewed life, each polished beam and restored shelf a testament to the community's resilience and the power of collective effort. As he walked through the aisles, Thomas couldn't help but marvel at the transformation. It was as if the building itself had been reborn, shedding its scars to stand proudly once more. The air was filled with a palpable sense of accomplishment, a stark contrast to the mystery and tension that had once cloaked the town like an unwelcome fog. Reflecting on his journey, Thomas felt a profound sense of change within himself. The investigation had been more than just a professional challenge. It had been a personal odyssey. His knack for puzzles and attention to detail had deepened into a richer understanding of human nature and the intricate dance of truth. He recalled moments of doubt and revelation, each step a building block in his growth as both an insurance adjuster and a person. As he wandered through the library, Thomas revisited the key revelations that had unraveled the mystery of Eleanor Whitmore's death. The charred ledger, the time-stamped letter, and other clues were not just pieces of evidence. They were threads in a complex tapestry of events. Each clue had its place in the larger puzzle, reminding him of the interconnectedness of events and the inevitability of truth coming to light. Thomas's emotions were a swirling mix: relief at having solved the case, sadness for the loss of Eleanor, and gratitude for the friendships and alliances formed during the investigation. The courage it took for the community to face its secrets and the strength required to move forward was nothing short of inspiring. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, the human spirit could shine brightly. The library's restoration was a powerful symbol of the enduring power of knowledge. Thomas contemplated the role of libraries as bastions of truth and learning, places where the past is honored and the future is shaped. He felt a renewed commitment to protecting these institutions and the stories they hold. Libraries were more than just buildings. They were the heartbeats of communities, preserving history and championing the pursuit of knowledge. As he prepared to leave, Thomas experienced a sense of closure. The case had been solved, the mystery unraveled, and it was time to face new challenges. Armed with the lessons learned, he felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Stepping outside, he was greeted by the sight of townspeople gathered to celebrate the library's reopening. Their joy was infectious, a testament to the power of community and the human capacity for renewal. The scene was one of joy and unity, a perfect bridge to the conclusion of the story. The narrative smoothly transitioned to the final thoughts of the book, ensuring that readers were left with a sense of fulfillment and a reminder of the enduring strength of community and the pursuit of truth. This subchapter encapsulated the emotional and thematic essence of the story, leaving a lasting impression on the reader. Thomas paused at the library's entrance, taking one last look at the building that had become a symbol of hope. He thought of Eleanor, whose life had been cut short, yet whose legacy would endure in the hearts of those who knew her. Her passion for the library and her vision for its future had sparked a transformation that would benefit generations to come. With a final nod to the past and a hopeful eye on the future, Thomas stepped into the sunlight. The library stood behind him, a beacon of resilience and renewal, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, communities could come together to rebuild and thrive. It was a fitting end to a journey that had begun in the ashes of mystery and concluded in the light of revelation. As he walked away, Thomas knew that the library would continue to be a place of learning and discovery, a sanctuary for those seeking knowledge and truth. It was a place where stories were told and retold, where history was preserved and the future was imagined. In that moment, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey he had undertaken and the lessons he had learned along the way. The final thoughts of the book left readers with a sense of hope and inspiration, a reminder of the power of community and the enduring quest for truth. The story of the Carnegie Library and the mystery of Eleanor Whitmore's death would remain etched in the memories of those who had followed the journey, a testament to the power of storytelling and the resilience of the human spirit.